One, because he is immortal, his body looks skeletal, completely skeletal. Naturally, everyone treated him like a terrifying monster. But why? How could he be this gentle? One day, Hiji-song went into an alley to bring food to the dogs. Then danger struck. 3 sketchy guys cornered her, staring. She was far too beautiful. They clearly had bad intentions. But Gio heard them, the immortal boy living in those shadows. He immediately stepped in. The moment those cowards saw his face, they bolted. Absolute cowards, but when Hiji saw him, she also panicked and ran. She stopped further down the road, realizing he had just saved her. I cannot just run away, she thought. She had to thank him. So she went back, offering her own sandwich instead of dog food. She even began petting the dogs, making Gio think she was an angel. Why did he look like this? Ever since he was 7, they knew. Knowing his body could not die, scientists locked Kim Gio in a lab. For 10 painful years, they ran every single unthinkable, barbaric experiment on him. They even put him under a hydraulic press just to watch him break. In this world, a rare mutation creates people born with superhuman hearts. Kim Gio possesses the legendary resurrection heart, making him completely and utterly undying. 3 years ago, he finally escaped that hell, but they pursued him. Choosing death over capture, Gio grabbed a high-voltage wire to electrocute his entire body. He fried himself along with his 2 captors. They forgot one detail. Only Gio is immortal. He survived, but his body requires food to heal. So he spent 3 years running, living like a ghost on the streets. Even though Hiji learned about his tragic past, she wanted to help. She promised she could make people stop being terrified of him. But during their walk, Gio was so weak, his physical arm literally fell off. Despite that terrifying scare, Hiji brought him fresh clothes. Applying makeup to hide his scars, she showed her endless kindness. Promising to return the next day, she left him with hope. For the first time in his life, Gio felt genuine human warmth. His mutant heart beat fast, but fear quickly took over his mind. If the lab found him, Hiji would be in grave danger. So Gio fled into the dark night, running as far as possible. By morning, one stray dog had quietly followed him, and there she was. Hiji stood there, completely exhausted. She spent hours searching for him. She brought food for the dogs and a huge meal for him. Feeding his immortal heart triggered something incredible. His arm rapidly grew back. Stunned by the sight, she asked if his recovery is normally this slow. Gio quietly explained that on a normal diet, full recovery would take years. Highly concerned, she immediately asked if there was any faster way to heal him. Our protagonist hesitated, knowing that drinking fresh blood would instantly trigger his regeneration. But he chose to keep that terrifying secret to himself. Instead, he lied, saying rapid healing only happens in the laboratory. He claimed eating normal food is his only option for now. And he will have to recover slowly, one day at a time. She stops him there. The girl asks if the laboratory healed him on purpose, and Gio confirms it, explaining they did that to continue their cruel experiments, and that is why those men relentlessly hunt him everywhere. The girl understands his situation, asking if that is why he tried to run away alone. He confirms that if she gets involved, she will also be in danger. Hiji stands up and tells him they should go to the police station right now. He explains that even if he goes there, he will be treated like a monster and might even get shot. Hiji tells him not to worry about that because her older sister is a police officer. She also reveals that her sister is a heart mutant exactly like him. Gio reacts with surprise to the information, but he hesitates, thinking for a few seconds. Hiji asks him to just trust her because her sister is truly a good person. He watches the girl talking to the dogs. She tells the animals they will be fine because the shelter will contact them. Soon, Potato keeps salivating while barking at the protagonist. Gio crouches down and pets the dog, noting that he ended up receiving help again. And thanks him. This time, he guarantees he will not run away like a coward and promises to come back to see the animal again. This is the first time Gio experiences something quite like this. After being hunted for 3 long years, someone finally reaches out to him first. He realizes it is a strange feeling to have someone helping him. He wonders if he can finally live without running away. But a dark car approaches, its blinding lights leaving the protagonist completely disoriented. He just looks back in fear as Hiji watches Gio get hit head-on by the car, slamming his head hard against the ground. One of the guards grabs Hiji, ordering the others to hurry and grab the bastard before other people Arrive, they approach carrying baseball bats, grabbing Gio with dozens of hands to immobilize him. A man lights a cigarette, commenting that he finally found that cursed skeleton, saying they should take the boy and make him pay for everything they went through. The cars speed away. Far away from there, Gio is tied up with a rope while they drive, thinking about how much this situation sucks. He tries using his fingers to break free. Everything happened because of him, and even Hiji got taken by those guys. Suddenly, the protagonist loses his balance and falls, feeling that with that trash ability he cannot do anything. He calls out for help, hoping for someone to come until the dogs suddenly leap toward the car. They charge full of rage, biting the ropes. They manage to tear them. With some difficulty, the car stops and the gang turns to see what happened. The dogs bark at the men. The guys open their doors right after. They walk menacingly toward the protagonist. One of them mocks them, asking if those mutts went crazy since it is not even feeding time. Gio continues suffering from the pain while looking at the dogs. Those thugs start striking the animals with baseball bats. The protagonist tries to stand up, seeing the dogs are fighting in his place. He knows he needs to do something fast. The dogs are getting beaten and hurt because of him. He approaches the blood spilled on the ground. He knows if he absorbs it, he can regenerate his body, dragging himself there. Meanwhile, those brutal thugs kill. They slaughtered every single dog. Now Gio notices a lifeless body right in front of him. Uncontrollable rage takes over his soul. Potato is dead, and the same tragedy struck all the dogs around him. He remembers the 10 agonizing years he spent locked inside that facility. He was a laboratory toy for 10 years, waking up to the same terrible routine. Whenever he opened his eyes, they would inject strange blood and harvest his organs. It never stopped. He desperately wanted to die, but couldn't, so he planned an escape. Against all odds, he broke free, hoping for a shred of happiness in the outside world. Instead, people treated him like garbage, calling him an absolute monster. But now the heart in his chest begins to glow. Hiji and these loyal dogs never abandoned him, showing him real warmth. Suddenly, all the spilled blood on the floor starts to creep toward him. The crimson pool rushes forward and completely envelops his body in a violent whirlpool, restoring his flesh from his feet to his arms. Gio's physical form fully regenerates, finishing with his face. He instantly looks around. With a shock, he realizes his broken body has completely returned to normal. Warm blood flows freely through him, just like when he was a child. He can barely believe it, realizing the dog's blood saved him. Nearby, the thugs start panicking about what to do next. One thug charges forward, yelling they just need to grab him, but Gio throws a ferocious punch, absolutely destroying the idiot instantly. The man flies backward and crashes into a car, burying his face deep in the crumpled metal. Gio hugs his lifeless dog, declaring he knows the absolute worst way for someone to die. He will only spare the person who reveals where they took Hiji. In a junkyard packed with old cars, thugs rip a bag off Hiji's head. Terrified, she demands to know who they are, but looking around reveals a swarm of gangsters. Right next to her, however, is a much more horrifying sight: several dead people. The ruthless boss grabs her hair, complaining she is making far too much noise, asking how many lives she thinks she has left to waste. If she wants to blame anyone, she should blame that skeleton, since she ruined her own life trying to rescue him. Then he strictly warns her to shut up unless she wants a quick ticket to the grave. After all, nobody in this dump cares if a couple more lives are lost. Out of nowhere, the boss's phone starts vibrating. He stands up, demanding to know why his lackey is calling rather than showing up. The panicked thug on the other end quickly explains the entire disaster. Confused, the boss snaps back, asking what nonsense he is talking about. Did those worthless mutts actually rescue him? But the thug confesses they lost the skeleton. This sends the boss into an absolute rage. Slamming his phone down, he fiercely warns that if they fail to retrieve the skeleton, his own man will pay with his life. Grabbing Hiji violently, the boss demands to know where that bony bastard went. He orders her to spill everything this instant, but the girl tearfully insists she knows absolutely nothing. The brute sneers, asking if she will stay quiet after he puts a few holes in her flesh. Hiji realizes she got dragged into a chase and acted like an absolute idiot. She desperately wonders what to do, but suddenly a bruised thug goes sailing past the boss from behind. Whirling around, the gang leader spots a mysterious boy standing in the doorway. Completely shocked, he demands to know who he is. Another lackey scoffs, thinking the intruder is just some pathetic beggar. But Gio instantly grabs him by the throat. The man cannot comprehend this terrifying strength. Gio tells him coldly that because of them, those poor dogs lost their lives. Several thugs rush him at once. A heavy fist connects right with Gio's face, but the boy simply spits out a bit of blood before throwing a devastating punch right back. The impact sends the gangster sailing backward, but another thug grabs Gio from behind, hammering away at the kid's back. Somehow, Gio does not even flinch. He uses sheer muscle to crush the front guy and hurl the other one straight to the dirt. This freakish power leaves the entire crowd stunned. Meanwhile, Gio demands to know if they were sent by the Hermes lab. Hiji realizes there is no mistake, this kid is the real Gio. The boss grabs her hair, yelling that the boy is the skeleton. He remembers being told the skeleton would look completely different after regenerating. He almost missed him. In a flash, he fires a bullet straight into Gio's shoulder. The boss mockingly thanks the kid for walking right into their trap. He screams at his men to grab their new weapons. Instantly, a hail of gunfire rains down on the boy. If they secure him, they will be filthy rich. They need to keep shooting so he cannot heal. The relentless gunfire does not pause for even a single second. Gio feels an agonizing pain take over. His flesh tears apart and his bones shatter once more. With shredded lungs, he can barely draw in a proper breath. He screams desperately for them to stop, but Gio collapses onto the dirt. He pants heavily, clawing his fingers deep into the soil. Suddenly, a pool of blood swirls around his body, the spilled blood of those who died in this place. This life force jumpstarts his racing heart. One of the thugs yells out to the boss, warning him that the dead kid is somehow getting back up. Gio rises like a relentless zombie until he stands fully upright. The men keep firing. In pure panic, Gio feels every single bullet shredding through his flesh. They tear him apart, yet his body keeps knitting itself back together anyway. This endless agony repeats, but somehow it does not hurt as much as expected. At least not compared to the absolute hell he already survived. He remembers the horrific experiments. Being crushed to pieces was nothing new to him. What Gio endured for years was far worse. Suddenly, he clocks a shooter right in the face, sending him flying backward. Gio scoffs that regular bullets are completely useless. He claims he can take this punishment for as long as they like. The thugs notice he is actually hovering in midair. Gio strikes the arm of another goon, instantly shattering his bones and sending him crashing into the distance. A third thug turns around in utter confusion, but the entire squad is wiped out at terrifying speed. Gio does not hesitate for a second. Rage boils over as he remembers those innocent souls who died protecting him. He swats another lackey aside, slowly closing the distance on the trembling boss. The boss screams at him to back off, threatening to shoot the girl if he takes one more step, but Gio delivers a massive fist straight to his face. In the end, the only pain that truly hurts is knowing he can never see his friends again. The boss crashes backward, smashing clean through a solid wall. Looking up, the boss is utterly paralyzed with fear. He begs for mercy, promising to do absolutely anything Gio wants, but Gio simply replies that it is too late. Now he slams the boss's head into the ground, completely crushing his face. This is still not enough, so Gio strikes again, delivering the exact same. He strikes dozens of times, raining down thousands of brutal punches in a matter of seconds. The target is left completely disfigured. In the end, Gio slowly stands back up. His fists are dripping with blood. His long revenge is finally complete. A sea of bodies lies around him while he gasps for air. Gently, Haiji calls out Gio's name. He calmly walks up. She immediately asks if he is okay after taking so many bullets. Instead of answering, he hugs her, saying he is just glad she is still alive. The loyal dogs sacrificed their lives to save him, and he was terrified she would meet the same fate. Because of that, he is incredibly grateful she survived. Haiji looks up at him, asking why he is thanking her. She hugs him back, saying she is the truly grateful one. Later on, the police arrive at the scene to handle everything. They arrest the gang leader and write it off as an internal turf war. From afar, the two of them watch the cleanup. Haiji comments on the arrests while Gio asks if it is really okay for them to stay out of the investigation. The girl explains that her older sister told them not to get involved for now. She says her sister will handle everything, meaning they can safely leave. Suddenly, Haiji breaks down crying. Seeing her tears, Gio starts crying as well. He looks at the dead dogs, whispering their names. Haiji weeps, blaming herself entirely because the poor dogs only died trying to save her. She laments that she never even took proper care of them, offering only scraps of food and affection. Hearing this, Gio suddenly bites his own finger, muttering that they died to give him. Blood-shocked Haiji asks what he is doing. He explains that he can heal himself, hoping his blood can resurrect them. But will this crazy plan actually work? Blood begins to drip, but the cut closes almost instantly. Gio keeps biting his finger, not understanding why the healing is so fast. He forces the wound to bleed even more. Haiji begs him to stop because it will only make the dogs sadder. He says they lost their lives because of him and must absolutely hate him now, but the girl insists that they really liked him. They simply did not trust other people. But they liked Gio. These were badly hurt dogs with terrible memories of humans. Gio says he never knew that, assuming they were just docile. The girl warns that if he gets hurt and blames himself, they will also suffer. He looks down and gently hugs Potato's body. Haiji notes that they approached him without a single fear, all because they felt he was in the same situation as them. He softly thanks her for saying that, but suddenly they hear barking right behind them. It is Potato's puppy. Haiji sighs in relief, incredibly glad the little one survived. The puppy slowly waddles up to Gio, standing still and looking up at him. Gio quietly asks if the puppy is angry at him since his father and friends died because of him, but the dog gently licks his hand. Haiji smiles, noting the puppy also likes him as it falls asleep in the arms of Gio. The girl is quite conflicted, not knowing what to do next. She knows she cannot leave a newborn puppy alone on the cold streets. She also realizes those men from the lab are incredibly dangerous, meaning Gio desperately needs a safe place. So she announces that she is going to call her sister right away. She explains they followed the plan they agreed on, and her sister handles the rest over the phone. Soon after, Haiji takes them both to her house. It is a massive apartment right in the center of the city. She tells Gio to make himself at home. He asks if he can really enter her home. He knows he is a dangerous person and does not want to cause any trouble, but Haiji replies that he risked his life to keep her safe. Haiji explains that her older sister is incredibly eager to meet him too. She is investigating a lab case and needs his help. Ultimately, everything is cleared. He can enter. Inside, Gio stops before mirror. He freezes, completely shocked by what he sees. He notices his cheeks, nose, and lips all look completely normal now. His face has finally returned to how it used to look. Ever since his childhood, his face never regenerated properly. Back at the lab, his healing was painfully slow, and they always ran more experiments before he could ever recover. Only now he discovers that this is what he actually looks like under those scars. Haiji remarks that things get more shocking the more he speaks. She confesses that something has been bothering her since they met. After regenerating, he does not look like an older man at all. She asks for his age. Gio admits it has been a long time since he even thought about it. Counting quickly on his fingers, he answers that he is 17 years old. Haiji gasps that is her exact age. She demands to know why he stayed quiet while she called him sir this whole time. Gio explains he did not mind, just being addressed as a human being made him incredibly happy. Haiji is deeply moved by his answer, finding the situation both sad and sweet at the exact same time. From now on, they agree to just use their first names casually. On the floor, Potato happily devours his food with absolute joy. Gio does the exact same thing with the human food on the table. He says aloud that the food is absolutely delicious. Haiji quickly apologizes and says she is not a very good cook, but Gio disagrees instantly. He assures her it is the absolute best food he has tasted in many long years. Haiji explains that her sister is probably too busy with work. Once their plates are finally empty, she starts clearing the table. Pointing to the couch, she tells him he will sleep there tonight, handing over a thick blanket to keep him warm. Then she mentions she has homework to do and heads straight to her room. Gio is left entirely alone in the living room. He looks from side to side, admiring the cozy place. He stares at the giant television, wondering if every flat screen is always this massive. He notes that even the indoor flowers are completely different from the cold ones back at the lab. He sits down and realizes the couch is unbelievably soft, a massive step up from the rock-hard lab beds he grew up on. In the corner, Potato is still totally focused on his food, but suddenly the puppy begins to choke. The quiet coughing instantly catches Gio's attention. He sees the pup coughing endlessly. Panic. Gio calls out to Potato and rushes over, but the quick little pup Just swallows the food, nothing happened, the dog. Looks totally confused by his fuss. Gio smiles, false alarm. They both lie down on the couch to sleep. It is incredibly warm and cozy. Gio asks if the little guy likes his new home too. He thinks of a name. Calling him Fry since he is a potato puppy, the little dog simply closes his eyes. Gio realizes this is what real happiness feels like. He ate delicious food, took a warm bath, and now has a soft couch to sleep on. But he knows this dream could shatter at any second. He remembers the brutal escape. He escaped with other mutants. Back then, they warned him the exit was near. Soldiers realize they are high-level mutants and refuse to let anyone escape. They trigger a massive blast that sends the mutants flying, and some end up crushed under heavy boulders. Meanwhile, a soldier aims his heavy hand cannon to fire, but the soldiers are shocked when their attack fails. A girl blocks the strike with solid ice walls and screams at Gio to wake up. Another mutant shields him, blocking the path with heavy rocks. The two exchange a final determined look as she screams for him to run toward the exit. They barely escape, fighting through the chaos but end up separated. He fears she is still suffering somewhere right now. That pain drives his vow to protect what is not even this tiny life he found. He swears that if anyone tries to steal him away, Gio will never forgive them under any circumstances. But the very next morning, a sudden scream echoes through the house. Gio charges out, calling for Twigum. He needs to find where his dog went. Before Hei yells that she is heading off to school for the day. She mentions her sister is arriving tonight and asks him to mind the house. Gio nods and wishes her a good day, quietly wondering what school is. Like just then, Twigum starts scratching frantically at the front door. Hei finds the dog behavior pretty strange. He is not in any pain, just bored and desperate to go outside. Gio offers to take him out for a quick walk. Hei asks if that is safe since his pursuers might track him down, but he promises nobody will recognize his newly healed face. Relieved, she agrees, but reminds him to use a leash before heading out. Soon, Gio is walking outside while Twigum happily rolls on the grass, watching him. Gio wonders if the collar is too tight or if it hurts. The sight of it brings back bad memories because he had to wear a very similar metal band in his past. That brutal collar burned his entire body, but here, unleashed dogs cause complaints. But right in the middle of these heavy thoughts, Twigum suddenly vanishes. Gio panics instantly as terrible, dark scenarios flash through his mind. Meanwhile, the dog is perfectly fine, happily exploring the city on his own. Gio, however, runs through the streets, desperately searching and shouting. He digs through street trash cans and crawls under parked cars, checking if Twigum is hiding. He frantically searches another dumpster along the busy sidewalk, racking his brain for any clue. Gio worries if the pup was hit by a car in the middle of the street, or if some cruel person did something terrible to him. He promised just last night that he would protect this little dog from everything. Suddenly, he spots a soccer court nearby where some kids are playing a match. Right there, Twigum is sitting calmly in the corner, quietly watching the game without a care. Gio rushes over, wondering if the pup somehow caught his scent from far away, but a nearby teacher suddenly notices him standing there. The man calls out to get his attention, but before the teacher can finish, Gio vanishes completely from sight, rushing straight toward his beloved dog. Dog completely ignoring everything else. Some guys keep playing soccer peacefully while other students just go about their normal day in the courtyard. Gio finds it pretty strange to see everyone so happy in a normal school, but one detail suddenly catches his eye. He hears some kids whisper about mutants escaping from a secret laboratory. Meanwhile, a nearby screen warns that reporting any rogue mutant pays out a massive cash reward. Right then, he realizes that society holds a brutal hatred toward mutants. He needs to play it safe, grab Twig, and leave immediately, but the stubborn dog decides to wander off. Just a few steps away, some girls are filming dance videos on a phone. They hype each other up, saying one of them looks absolutely flawless. She smiles and happily returns the compliment, but that is when Twig wanders right over to them. The main girl kneels down and hugs him, calling him adorable. They immediately start recording the dog for social media, but Gio accidentally walks straight into the corner of the frame. The girls scream in shock as he suddenly materializes out of nowhere. Stepping out from a tree, he apologizes for the surprise. He explains that he did not mean to startle them, he just came To grab his dog, the three of them stare, realizing he is actually incredibly good-looking. Spotting his uniform, they guess he is the new transfer student and want to know his name. Gio instantly tenses up, asking if his face got caught on her screen. He warns them with total seriousness that he absolutely cannot be in any videos. But the girl completely brushes off his intensity, slides her phone forward, and asks for his social media handle to tag him. Behind her, the other girls whisper that they have never seen her ask a guy for his Instagram before. But here is the catch. Our guy has absolutely no idea what Instagram even is. Minjang thinks he is exactly her type, finding his clueless, quiet vibe pretty cute. Gio simply tells her that he does not have anything like that. She stands there completely baffled. He bows politely, thanking her for the offer anyway, leaving her friends completely stunned by the rejection. Minjang instantly gets irritated, thinking he is playing hard to get. Meanwhile, Gio bends down and scoops the dog up, whispering an apology to Twig, promising he will never let him wander off again. From distance, another student watches this unfold and gets incredibly angry, wondering who this new kid thinks he is. His friend whispers that Minjang is the girl Taegu likes, pointing out that the transfer student is using a dog to hit on her. Taegu seethes, wondering how this random trash dares to touch what is his. He snatches a soccer ball from a classmate and lines up a brutal shot directly at our main character. Taegu winds up and unleashes a powerful kick. The ball rockets straight toward Gio's face, but Gio is completely focused on the puppy in his arms. He intentionally lets the soccer ball slam directly into his face. The girls gasp in terror, asking if he is hurt as dark blood begins dripping onto the concrete. Taegu fakes a cheap apology, claiming his foot just slipped. Minjang angrily yells that the ball almost hit her as well, asking Gio if he is fine, but Gio just tells Taegu to watch his aim next time because his dog was almost injured. Taegu just bursts out laughing. Mockingly, he tells his buddies to look at the new kid's pathetic face and sneers, asking if he needs a hospital because the last guy he hit ended up with a broken nose. Gio calmly repeats that he is fine, though his dog almost. The boy was not hurt at all. Taegu apologizes again, and Gio says it is fine before turning around to leave with his dog, but Taegu immediately orders his goons to identify this new kid. He definitely did not like the newcomer's smug face. Meanwhile, Gio thinks about how terrified he was of losing his beloved dog Fries, but thanks to his pet, he finally got to see a real school with kids his own age. He finds it incredibly amusing, thinking that if he had actually gone to school, maybe he could have made plenty of friends. Suddenly, Taegu calls him back, offering a fake apology for that soccer ball strike from earlier. He claims that since they are in the same school grade, they are basically friends now, and since Gio took the painful hit, a simple apology just will not cut it. So he offers to buy him some bread. Gio quietly wonders if it is actually tasty. Taegu swears it is delicious, so Gio asks if they have something for his dog to eat too. Taegu makes up a quick excuse that he only wanted to show off in front of the girls, promising to buy tons of snacks. But wait, the moment they turn the corner, Taegu kicks Gio with all his might. The other delinquents laugh, asking if he really lured the new kid all this way. They mock him, saying the naive boy only followed because of a silly promise of free bread. One bully chuckles, pointing out that the kid seems a little slow in the head. They laugh, joking that they will stuff him with bread until he literally chokes. Taegu raises his hand, calling him a coward, and demanding to know why he acted so high and mighty. Gio is completely confused, asking what they are even talking about, but Taegu screams that he was flirting with Min Young, claiming he will cry after the very first punch. The gang starts mocking him, and Gio realizes he was not making friends at all. It was just a trap to pick a fight, so he turns around and apologizes, offering to leave if he made anyone uncomfortable. But the thugs block his path, demanding to know where he thinks he is going. Gio firmly tells them to move aside because his poor dog is getting terrified. One thug sneers that the mutt is just like its owner, throwing a wild punch. And talk about instant regret. Gio sends the thug flying with a single effortless punch. The rest of the group cannot comprehend how their friend flew so far away. Taegu cannot believe his eyes since Gio barely even had to move his arm. Furious thugs charge at him all at once. They scream in rage, demanding to know if he truly threw their friend like a ragdoll. Gio calmly closes his eyes for a brief moment. His mutant heart begins to glow. He takes down every single attacker with absurdly low effort, and then charges straight at Tagu, rearing back his fist. He stops the punch just a finger away from the bully's face, yet the wind pressure pins him against the wall. He strikes the solid wall right above Tagu's head. Gio calmly warns them once again that he told them to stop because his dog was terrified. The thugs try to call out to Tagu, but they completely lose their nerve and sprint away. Tagu stares in absolute horror at the wall, cracking right behind him. He knows that if he took a direct hit, his bones would shatter into dust. Realizing he messed with the wrong monster, the bully instantly drops to his knees, begging for mercy. He even pulls out a photo of his own dog at home, hoping to gain some sympathy. The naive Gio immediately assumes he is a nice guy while Tagu keeps begging. Suddenly, Gio's stomach lets out a loud, awkward growl. He mentions he got hungry because he used his. Tagu finds it bizarre that this guy randomly gets hungry in the middle of a fight. He figures the boy is just pretending to forgive him while secretly demanding food. Not long after, the two of them find themselves in the school cafeteria. Gio happily thanks him and digs in, while Tagu just stands there. He watches from a safe distance as the weird boy shares his lunch with a dog. Tagu cannot wrap his head around how such a monstrously strong guy can act so clueless. Just minutes ago, this kid literally sent a grown man flying through the air. Seriously, no normal athlete could ever smash a concrete wall like that. He has never witnessed anything like this. Realizing he is out of his leg, he makes a call. He decides to call his formidable older brother, who answers the phone immediately. Young Chul asks what is going on, and Tagu begs him to help just this once. His brother asks in annoyance if he got thrashed again, but Tagu quickly explains. He insists this kid is a real monster, begging him for help one last time. He reveals the target is that crybaby redhead everyone treats like a complete loser. Young Chul's companion asks how tough the kid is, offering to go handle it himself. He tells Tagu to lure the target outside of the school grounds as fast as possible. Tagu quietly laughs, thinking the strange redhead is as good as dead. But get this, the innocent protagonist kindly offers him some of his food. Gio says he feels a bit awkward eating all by himself. Tagu tells him to dig in. He watches him closely, still utterly baffled by how such a gentle boy is so strong. Then a completely terrifying detail suddenly flashes through his mind. Gio definitely shattered his own knuckles when he smashed the concrete wall earlier. But looking at his hand now, the skin is completely normal. Such rapid healing and godlike strength suddenly trigger an old memory for Tagu. He remembers hearing rumors about legendary heart mutants with unique powers. He wonders if the red-haired kid is actually one of them. Tagu has never met a real mutant before, and this kid looks exactly like any ordinary high schooler. If Gio really is a mutant, his brother could get seriously hurt. Tagu gets anxious, wondering if he is truly messing with a heart mutant. He nervously asks if they should just call this off. He warns that it is far too dangerous to pursue this kid anymore. But young Chul is thrilled, saying a heart mutant is the ultimate prize. He tells Tagu to hold the fort and stall him until they arrive. Suddenly, Gio announces he is done eating and gets up to leave. Tagu panics, pointing out there is still plenty of time left before class starts. But the boy insists on going home. Tagu has to think of a way to stall him. In a desperate move, he suggests they ditch the rest of their classes today. He drags him to a local arcade called Gameland, which blows Gio's mind completely. The boy stares at the flashing neon lights, completely mesmerized by the arcade. He admits he had absolutely no idea a place like this even existed in the world. Suddenly, he spots a plushie that looks just like the one Hijai has. Tagu asks if he has seriously never played a claw machine in his entire life. He insists that Gio has to try playing it at least once to see. He explains how to control the joystick to grab and lift the prize. Gio surprisingly manages to grab the doll on his first try, celebrating wildly. Gio figures the kid is having fun, so stalling for his crew should be easy. He casually turns to the boy and asks if he has ever been to a karaoke room. It is simple, just pick a track, say the name, and the machine handles the rest. But Gio mutters that he does not actually know a single song. Gio just shrugs and tells him to belt out whatever comes to his mind. What follows is a nursery rhyme sung with absolute, deadpan intensity. Gio watches, wondering how long this weird kid can possibly keep up the act. But Gio quietly admits it is the only song he actually knows. His mother taught it to him right before they were separated at age 7. After that day, any hope of a normal life completely vanished. Ju goes quiet, looking at the kid with a new kind of heavy curiosity. Are all heart mutants carrying this kind of raw, unspoken pain? It actually stings. Something shifts in Tu. He decides this kid deserves to see a brighter side of life. He makes a silent promise to show him a completely different world. They lose themselves in the arcade, smashing drums and butt-mashing on fighting games. Gio even loses his footing and faceplants right off the dance stage. Ju cracks up, laughing out loud at how hopelessly clumsy the kid is. Gio beams, saying this is the first time he has ever had real fun. It is a perfect moment, but then Tu's phone starts buzzing in his pocket. He groans at the caller, but Young Chul's harsh voice already cuts through the line. Realization hits him like a truck. He was supposed to be setting up an ambush. But he completely forgot about the beating because they were having a blast. They even took silly Polaroids together, which he now scrolls through with a smile. There is Gio, smiling brightly next to his scruffy little dog. Later in a dim, damp alleyway, Tu finally meets up with the gang. He lies right to their faces, claiming the kid is not a mutant after all. The thugs grow furious, but Tu is just thinking about the kid's dog. He knows that pet is the only family Gio has left. It breaks his heart. He gets it because his own dog is already 17 and nearing the end. Just imagining the loss makes him want to break down right there. But while he is babbling about his pet, a massive fist comes flying straight at him. Young Chul lands a brutal punch that sends the poor kid crashing onto the concrete. He stalks over, grabs Tu by the hair, and asks if this looks like a joke. He demands to know where the mutant is hiding, his voice dripping with pure malice. Did Tu think the entire gang gathered tonight just to play games? Wincing in pain, Tu tries to explain that he spent the whole day with the kid. He swears there was absolutely no mutant energy coming from the kid, not even a trace. Just a regular, pathetic loser who got tired after 2 rounds of arcade games. He calls Gio an idiot and apologizes for dragging them out for nothing. Young Chul stares down at him, asking if he is really sure about that. He asks if Tu is acting out because of a little brotherly discipline. Because the sheer terror written all over his face says he is flat out lying. He demands to know why Tu really changed his mind about the target. Is he too scared because mutants are supposed to be monsters? Young Chul just laughs in his face, promising they are going to win this anyway. $500. If they hand over the mutant, they get the cash on the spot because there is already a broker lined up for the trade. Tagu wonders if this is straight-up human trafficking. These mutant kidnappings are happening everywhere lately, and rumors say labs and the government pay massive money for them. Tagu thought it was just cheap talk, but now his own brother is living out internet horror stories. Young Chul spits that the captive boy is completely worthless. Then he delivers a savage kick that slams the kid straight into the brick wall. For Tagu, this situation has turned into absolute hell. The leader barks orders to beat him until he talks. The thugs start kicking him relentlessly while Tagu curls up, trying to shield himself from those heavy blows. Groaning in pain, his mind drifts back to the old days. He used to get thrashed just like this, with kids calling him a pathetic loser. Young Chul had stepped in then, asking who gave freshmen the right to bully their own classmates. The bullies fled, apologizing. Young Chul told his brother that the kid trained at his gym and deserved protection. Back then, Tagu thought his brother was the coolest guy alive. He wanted them to be real brothers because of that, but young Chul warns that he can spot a lie from a mile away. Still, he tells Tagu that his loyalty is respectable, even if it is foolish. But dealing with underground runners is no joke. He explains that trying to sell a mutant loan only gets you $200 or $300. Once the pain starts, loyalty is useless anyway. Honestly, don't we all want to live an incredible life? Tagu certainly did, but chasing quick cash is just pathetic. Back then, they made a pact to rise up together. But now, Tagu looks down and says he is sorry for everything. He admits he feels utterly pathetic in this moment. He wonders why he even said that. Young Chul snaps, telling him he has heard enough of his excuses. Tagu begs for forgiveness, saying the words just slipped out. Suddenly a fist wrapped in heavy iron chains swings at him, but Gio catches young Chul by the arm. Gio calmly points out that the chain is nearly as thick as a finger, showing crude weld marks. He warns that a blow from a weapon like that leaves wounds that take forever to heal. The surrounding thugs whisper, wondering who this kid thinks he is. Tagu asks why Gio even came, but Gio simply says he was taking too long. Tagu desperately screams for him to run, explaining that these thugs are dangerous guys. From his past, he confesses he actually lured Gio there to be ambushed. He even told them the secret about him being a heart mutant. Tagu grits his teeth in absolute self-hatred, admitting he was just bitter about his earlier beating. He keeps apologizing, but Gio only asks why he stood there taking a beating. Young Chul watches them, his face hardening with disappointment. Tagu stands speechless. In that exact split second, one of the thugs blindsides Gio with a heavy blow. The rest of the gang swarms in, forming a tight circle to beat him down. They strike Gio repeatedly while the little dog, Fry, barks in absolute terror. Tagu desperately throws himself over Gio, trying to shield him from the relentless violence. A thug mocks him, asking if this weakling is really the legendary mutant, but Gio only crouches down, touching the fresh blood on the concrete and absorbing it. The thug watches this in human sight, pure terror locking his limbs. In a flash, Gio unleashes a devastating strike, shattering his jaw before quickly dodging the next attack. Attack! Using his own momentum, Gio flings the guy away, finally standing tall. He stops directly in front of the crowd, staring them all down. At the back, young Chul is absolutely furious, screaming for them to end him. In a flash, they all charge forward with weapons. Bats swing, they beat him mercilessly, but suddenly, one thug goes flying, then another follows right after. Gio charges, he relentlessly drops one gang member after another. He immediately takes down one more, looking up just as a thug swings at him. With a bat, the heavy blow cracks against his head, but Gio merely strikes back. Punching him hard, the thug crashes into the wall, shattering it completely as they stare in shock. They wonder if he is even human, but Gio just grabs their leader by the throat. Young Chul charges in with a blade, yelling for his crew to follow his lead. He figures Gio is still human and will bleed out just like anyone else if stabbed. Gio groans that the stab hurts like hell, but then he just spits some blood. Young Chul keeps stabbing him wildly until Gio suddenly grabs the blade. This completely catches the heavy thug off guard as Gio glares at him, telling him to stop. Then he yanks the knife away, leaving young Chul trembling and wondering what kind of weird heart he has to still stand. Gio says his heart is none of his business, stabbing the blade deep into young Chul's thigh. Soon all the other thugs back off, but Gio suddenly darts forward, moving like a blur. He grabs them all, now they know who they messed with. No escape, Tagu watches with pure relief as the fight finally ends. With both thugs thoroughly beaten, Gio holds them up before Tagu, who immediately calls his name. He asks if Gio is okay, offering to call an ambulance, but Gio tells him he is fine. Tagu stares at the brutal wound, but reality hits him, and he turns away in pure shame. Apologizing, he suddenly clenches his fist and punches himself, saying he should choose his friends wisely. He sold out a friend. He begs for forgiveness. He keeps apologizing for selling Gio out, explaining he used to be close to those thugs. He thought hanging out with them would protect him, but he is just trash. Looking up, he sees Gio holding out a small cloth. His nose is bleeding, and Gio tells him to clean it. Tagu takes it, questioning if this is meant for blood, only to realize it is a puppy training pad. He laughs, saying he will wipe his face before getting hit again. Gio notes that just a second ago, Tagu claimed he was not worthy to be his friend. Gio replies that clearly, they both think of each other that way, so everything is fine. Tagu is completely stunned, and tears start flowing. Up at the words, he hugs Gio tight, breaking down in heavy tears. He apologizes, calling Gio a good guy. Meanwhile, young Chul begs to leave, claiming he has learned his lesson and promising not to tell anyone that Gio is a heart mutant. Tagu snaps in anger, demanding to know what he is talking about. He kicks the thug right in the face, shouting that he should have apologized first. Calling him absolute trash who behaves like a pig, Tagu says he knew this from the moment he first laid eyes on him. From a distance, Gio asks if they were. They are definitely not friends. Tagu wants to know what they should do with these guys now, but young Chul begs them to wait a second. He promises he won't try anything else and pleads with them not to call the cops. Right at that exact moment, a loud siren wails. The officers arrive, announcing they are from the Sudam station after a neighbor called it in. The gangsters instantly begin to tremble. With absolute fear, Tagu notes that the police arrived at the perfect time. He points and calls them out as total trash who are literally selling people. He explains that if they raid their hideouts, they will find tons of evidence. He states they are all dangerous criminals and the police need to lock them up, right? After that, young Chul starts screaming, crying for help from the officers. He weeps, saying his bones are shattered and he took a knife to the leg. He celebrates the arrival of the police, claiming they were brutally beaten. Taegu finds this ridiculous and asks who exactly beat up whom. He explains those men tried to kidnap Geo and caused this entire bloody mess. Young Chul points at Geo, pointing out that he does not have a single scratch while the whole gang is injured. Suddenly, all the thugs start playing the victim. Talk about shameless. The officers order everyone to calm down. They will sort this mess out at the station, but young Chul reveals to the guards that Geo is actually Heart Mutant. He claims that is how the kid beat up their entire gang. Single-handedly, the officers immediately start staring at Geo with total disgust. They ask if he is really a mutant, demanding his identification and registration. Geo simply replies that he has nothing like that. The officers ask if he is unregistered by the government, warning him that this violates the special mutant law. They decide they will start registering him right then and there, ordering him to show ID and use his ability. Main character is completely lost and fails to understand the situation. He thinks about the massive trouble if those lab guys track his registration. He knows that the moment he is registered, the government can track his every single move. In that exact instant, Hetty asks the guards to wait. She greets the officers politely. The two immediately demand to know who she is. Instead of answering, Hetty simply hands over her phone and asks them to take the call. The officer answers the phone right away. On the other end, Superintendent Hyen from the mutant department identifies herself. The officer panics completely and frantically rushes to introduce himself. Superintendent Hyen explains that the case is an attempted kidnapping of a heart mutant, ordering them to arrest the thugs. She adds that the mutant is just a witness and must be released. She says that as the team leader, she will handle the final report, and the officer accepts the order at once. The guard hangs up and shouts to arrest the thugs and let the others go. Young Chul is baffled, asking what is happening. He wants to know who is on that phone with so much power to order the gang arrested. He desperately wants to know who that girl was. Geo asks what is happening and how she knew he was there. Hetty says she saw Geo at school, surrounded by some sketchy guys, and decided to follow him. Geo asks if she is talking about Taegu, trying to understand what just happened. Taegu thinks she is the goddess of the school, instantly getting jealous. Geo approaches the car. He demands to know what they plan on doing with the kid. He asks if the Hermes laboratory ordered this hit, but Yang Chul swears he has never heard of such a place. Instead, they were merely planning to hand him over to a local broker. They specialize in trading heart mutants. Geo instantly announces that he wants to track down these brokers. Talk about a reckless plan, but he wants this guy jailed. But Pai screams that she will not let him. Absolutely not, she says. It is far too dangerous. He has absolutely no idea how terrifying those guys can actually be. She reminds him of her sister's warnings that they only target heart mutants, and they are literal monsters. Geo replies that this is exactly the reason why he must see them. She cannot understand why he is so obsessed with finding a broker. Geo scratches his face, explaining that tracking down these brokers might lead him back to his friends. Hearing this, Taegu remembers that Geo once claimed he had no friends. Geo clarifies that while he had none on the outside, he lived with several back in the laboratory. Life, there was just endless suffering through experiments every single day, until he was suddenly dragged off to a strange place. Having never walked that far before, he is terrified. He keeps wondering what awful tests they will run on him next. Then, a massive rain of swords begins. The boy realizes the blades are flying, and they will likely repeat this test. He feels fear, but knows if he does not step inside, he cannot predict what they will do. When the doors open, the scene is pure chaos. One mutant throws several knives at a girl who actively controls ice. Meanwhile, another boy in the corner tries to control his bees. Geo is completely shocked. He watches a sharp knife emerge directly from a mutant's hand, and the target is his own head. The attacker makes a swift, precise cut, but the girl is even faster, freezing Geo solid right before impact. The other boy is totally startled. Geo unfreezes shortly after. Having saved him, the girl slaps the attacking boy on the head, demanding to know what he is thinking, since their target is definitely no monster. She tells him to look at the laboratory coat. Geo is completely lost. The other children run over to him, looking incredibly excited. Gio tries to hide his face out of sheer embarrassment. The children notice immediately, assuring him everything is perfectly fine. They say he only looks like a skeleton because he is actually a mutant. They ask if it is his first time in the classroom. Immediately after that, everyone starts introducing themselves. That is how Gio met his very first friends. It turns out this place gathers the experimental children to give them a basic education. Since everyone there is a mutant, they instantly connect and quickly, classes only happen a few times a year, meaning they rarely meet. Yet their bond remains strong. Hearing this, Tegu cries, asking what kind of tragic life Gio had been living. Pai comments that this must mean he had friends. She asks where they are now. Gio explains that on the day they escaped the lab, the guards hunted everyone down, forcing them to separate. The girl realizes that this is why he is looking for a broker. This man might have hunted his friends down. She urges him to go after him, promising to do everything in her power to help. Tegu fully agrees, saying it is a good thing he grabbed the phone from Yangchul, where the broker's number is definitely saved. Once inside, Gio finds his contact and mentions he planned on hunting him down at 7 in the evening. But Gio insists they need to move right now. Cut to a warehouse. Armed thugs charge at a hooded figure. The stranger dodges effortlessly before forming a glowing blade right in his own hand. He casually mocks them. That clumsy swing won't ever cut a thing. Down they go. Every single thug collapses to the floor in seconds. The gang leader draws his weapon, yelling that blades won't work on him. But his revolver is instantly sliced clean in half. Talk about a reality check. The terrified boss freezes right in front of the deadly mutant. He boasts that properly channeled, his sword heart can easily slice through solid steel. A fleeing thug gets instantly struck down, crashing heavily onto his knees. Chaewon wishes him luck for next time, then checks his buzzing phone. His playful expression turns completely dead serious in an instant. The sender wants to sell some fresh mutant hearts immediately, a new client, perhaps. Meanwhile, Gio arrives in the dark alleyway, remembering the exact meeting spot. Looking around the shipping containers, he confirms this is the exact spot. He realizes there are still 30 minutes left until the meeting. This shady broker traffics human beings with special hearts. Worse yet, rumor has it that this broker is a dangerous mutant himself. Earlier that day, Hiji had strongly warned him about meeting this sketchy guy. She pointed out that these heart hunters are often extremely dangerous mutants themselves. But Gio knows this broker is his only key to finding his missing friends. He promised her he would only observe the deal from a safe distance. With his unique abilities, escaping from any danger should be a total breeze. At least that is what he told Hiji. But deep down, he wants to wipe these slave traders off the face of the earth. First, he needs a weapon to launch a surprise attack if things go south. Charging in blindly against power mutants is just a suicide mission. To fight a mutant, you must figure out their exact ability first. Suddenly, a throwing knife slices through the air, heading straight for him. He ducks just in time, watching the metal poles behind him get sliced. A voice mocks him. That was a pretty obvious hiding spot in the alley. The stranger demands to know if Gio is just some undercover cop snooping around. Gio is left wondering if this hostile guy is actually the broker himself. Seeing him use a knife, Gio wonders if he is just a normal human. If he is just a regular human, catching him will be a piece of cake. Gio focuses his strength and charges at full speed, giving him zero time to react. But his devastating fist stops dead, right in front of the man's face. Wait, what? The face staring back at him belongs to his old friend Chaewon. Chaewon draws his weapon, coldly asking how this stranger knows his name. He unleashes a blinding flurry of slashes, sending Gio crashing down. Gio struggles to quickly get back up, but his body simply refuses to cooperate. His tendons were cleanly severed in a fraction of a second. This blade is incredibly deadly, and his sword skill is just insane. Suddenly, this terrifying speed triggers a memory of their chaotic escape years ago. They're away, but they get sliced to pieces instantly. Chu is the one responsible, promising to clear the path, but back to the present day, Chuan demands to know how he knows his name, but he notices Gio acting in a strange way. How on earth is he standing when his tendons are completely severed? Gio replies that he is Kim Gio, the guy who used to be a skeleton. Chuan is utterly baffled. Is this really the specimen from the lab? Gio confirms he is alive. It has been a very long time. Chiwon interrogates him further, demanding proof. Gio explains how he managed to fully regenerate, hoping his old friend finally recognizes him. Instead, Chiwon draws his weapons. Gio lunges forward, but Chiwon unleashes a storm of throwing knives. At blinding speed, somehow Gio stays on his feet through the barrage and asks why his friend is attacking him if he knows who he is. Chiwon coldly replies that watching those wounds heal instantly proves his identity. Gio urges him to look closer, but Chiwon is already moving. He charges with his blade, swinging a strike so fast that Gio can barely evade. Gio rolls across the dirty ground, desperately trying to figure out why his closest friend is trying to kill him. Chiwon attacks again. He says Gio knows the reason better than anyone. Then comes a brutal combo, slicing deep into Gio's arms and legs. Gio realizes that dodging is totally useless. Every single strike is landing. If this deadly clash keeps going like this, he is going to bleed out. He has to calm his old friend down first, even if it means taking a hit. And just like that, the blade drives right through his arm. Chiwon looms over him, mocking him for bringing bare fists to a sword fight. Gio admits he knows how deadly his friend is, but get this. Chiwon realizes too late. Gio used his own arm as bait to trap the weapon. In a flash, Gio grabs his hand with bone-crushing strength. He pulls his former friend close, completely catching him off guard. With a violent heave, Gio launches Chiwon straight into a nearby wall. As the dust clears, Chiwon admits he underestimated him, calling him strong. But then he spits out, "Why did you run away back then if you had this power?" Gio is utterly confused. Chiwon flashes back to their nightmare at the lab. Remembering the day they tried to escape, one of the kids was caught by a guard while the others hid in the shadows. Desperate, Chiwon had begged for a metal pipe to fight back, but Gio just stood there frozen. They were surrounded, staring death right in the face. And in that exact moment, Gio ran away, abandoning them. Gio desperately defends himself. There was no choice. Staying meant certain death. Chiwon touches the wall, cursing him as a coward. Instantly, every piece of metal around them begins to hum. He knows about Gio's healing power, but points out that minced meat takes a lot longer to put itself back together. He challenges Gio to try and survive this next blow. Gio prepares to block with his arm, but in a flash, his stomach is ripped open. Chiwon appears behind him, declaring that the real monster was right here. Even the solid steel beams are sliced clean in half. Distant bystanders hear the commotion and wonder what went down. Hee-jae urges Ti-woo to call the cops. Inside the dusty construction site, Chaewon realizes that his healing factor is working way faster now. Surviving a brutal hit like that feels impossible. But Gio quickly stops him, explaining that he never actually abandoned them. He fought until the very end to protect everyone at the lab, only escaping to find and rescue whoever was still trapped. Chaewon wonders if it really was just a massive misunderstanding. Suddenly, voices from outside echo through the ruins. Chaewon breaks free from the hold, admitting he has already caused way too much trouble here. He tells Gio to meet him at his hideout to talk. Apparently, a lot has changed since that fateful day, leaving them with much to discuss. Gio hesitates. He cannot help but notice how much Chaewon has changed over the years. His old friend used to be incredibly bright and cheerful. What could have forced a guy like that into a shady hideout, working with brokers? Now cut to the present, Chaewon is aggressively chopping an onion, leaving Gio standing there completely dumbfounded. The young cook throws his ingredients high into the air. He is putting on an absolute show, totally captivating the hungry crowd around him. Gio stares in disbelief, wondering if this lively food stall is actually the secret hideout. He tries to piece together what kind of tragedy turned Chaewon into this. Meanwhile, Chaewon serves up fresh burgers, warmly inviting the customers to dig in. The customers immediately start swooning over his looks. Gio is completely lost. None of this makes any sense. Is this food cart seriously his secret base? It is just too bizarre. Later on, Chaewon finally takes a break and sits down. He casually explains that this is his job. Gio awkwardly absorbs the news. Chaewon smugly points out that Gio is currently the one without a job. Then Chaewon asks about the two people spying nearby. Gio introduces Hee-jae and Ti-woo. Ti-woo jokes that it must be nice being jobless and still having loyal friends. Hee-jae defends Gio, reminding Ti-woo that their friend has suffered through a lot. Gio quickly steps in to defuse the tension, assuring his friends that Chaewon is actually a good guy. There is no need for anyone to be defensive. Chaewon suggests restarting the conversation, since Geo claims he did not flee. Geo explains that right before their escape attempt, a bomb was planted nearby. The moment the police surrounded them, his ears picked up a faint, rhythmic ticking. Having survived brutal explosive tests in the past, he recognized that burning fuse instantly. Those heartless captors had trapped everyone inside and were preparing to detonate the explosives, aiming to bury them all under tons of heavy rubble. Only the strongest could have survived that blast, leaving the weak to die. So he gathered every single explosive he could carry and ran as fast as possible. He sprinted away until the blast finally went off. Geo still does not know if the force knocked him out, but he eventually woke up deep inside a forest. When he returned to the laboratory ruins, the area was empty. He assumed they had escaped. Chaewon admits that he remembers hearing a massive explosion that day. But did Geo really risk his life to carry those deadly bombs away? Holding his head in his hands, Chaewon struggles to believe this wild story. Geo admits it sounds completely insane, but he swears on his life it is true. With time ticking away like a ticking bomb, Chaewon breaks down crying, saying he completely believes him. Geo is completely baffled by this reaction. Meanwhile, Chaewon starts grilling a fresh burger. Chaewon serves it up, admitting he knew things would turn out like this. Geo wonders if the food is really for him. He nods, mentioning he heard about the rough times, so this meal is a special gift. Just as they talk, a group of girls approaches, excited to grab a photo with Chaewon. Chaewon happily poses for the shot, leaving a clueless Geo lingering in the background of the picture. He apologizes, admitting he feels terrible for almost slicing his old friend earlier. Geo shrugs it off, insisting it did not even hurt, before eagerly digging into his meal. Laughing, he jokes that he is jealous of anyone eating this delicious food every day. If he ever wants another round, he only has to ask because Chaewon is actually the diner manager. Geo lights up, glad to see that Chaewon seems totally back to normal now. Chaewon brags that blending in was simple, promising Geo that he can build a normal life too. He goes ahead and offers him a job right here at the joint, promising to pull some strings. Chaewon even promises him a massive manager bonus, but Geo tells him to hold on. Geo remembers they first crossed paths, where he was supposed to meet a shady broker. He looks at his friend, demanding to know why Chaewon is associating with those criminals. Geo reminds him that those same scumbags locked them up in the laboratory in the first place. He cannot understand how Chaewon could ever team up with them, but Chaewon quickly defends himself. He explains that the whole thing was just an act. Scratching his head, he lays out the plan. Chaewon plays the part of a fake broker, aiming to lure out the human traffickers who hunt mutants. Once they show up, he wipes them out. Geo asks if he is actually serious about this. Chaewon nods. Geo lets out a long sigh of relief, glad to know his friend is not a traitor. So Chaewon flips burgers by day and hunts down wicked brokers by night. Someone has to do it. Geo finds this amazing. Chaewon is clearly giving this crusade everything he has. Inspired by this, Geo tells him that if he ever needs backup, he only has to ask. After all, Geo only came back to the city to find out what happened to their old companions. Chaewon is caught off guard, but then slowly admits he actually needs some help. He explains that his next target is an elusive broker, and Geo's raw strength would make it easy. If they corner him, they might find their friends. It is their best shot. Chaewon grins. He holds out a fist to seal their brand new alliance. He says any backup is welcome, and Geo promises they will ride out together when the time comes. When his shift ends, they say goodbye. Geo thanks his current travel companions for waiting for him. Taegu looks skeptical, asking if that burger flipper is truly a friend or just a skilled liar. Hai nods in agreement, confessing her heart stopped when the guy claimed to be a broker. Geo smiles. He reassures them both that there is absolutely nothing to worry about. Chaewon is still the same kind guy. Hai then wonders how they will even contact him without a phone. But Geo smirks, pulling out the phone he previously took from Young Call. He holds up the phone that once belonged to Young Call. Meanwhile, in a dark alley elsewhere, a panicked young man is running for his life, shouting thugs chase him, desperate to corner their prey. Glancing back, he extends his finger, spraying a strange, slick liquid directly at his pursuers. The thugs immediately lose their traction, slipping and tumbling hard onto the concrete. He thinks he is safe, but out of nowhere, a massive fist slams his face. His attacker sneers, asking where he thinks he is running, the petrified mutant begs for mercy. He whimpers that his power is completely useless, explaining he can only shoot out harmless oil. The brute grabs him by the hair, questioning if this pathetic kid is even a real mutant. The thugs mock him, sneering that even if mutants are strong, trash like him is just normal human garbage. Another thug shrugs. It is still easy money when they are getting $1 billion up front anyway. The young mutant panics, but suddenly Kiwon appears and drops a heavy hand onto his shoulder. Kiwon calmly asks if that is really all his life is worth. A thug barks out, "Who the hell are you?" Too slow before he can even ask, his entire arm is cleanly sliced off. Kiwon casually suggests that if they are risking their lives, they really should charge more. The other thugs rush him, screaming to wipe him out, as Kiwon whispers that he will end this. And like that, he vanishes into thin air, only to reappear instantly. Every single thug collapses, sliced to pieces, as Kiwon lunges directly at the very last survivor. He faces a pointed gun, calmly asking the thug if he knows anything. Seeing that the gun is made of metal, Kiwon instantly triggers the power of his sword heart. It jams, the metallic trigger locks up solid as the desperate thug squeezes. No shot, the thug gasps in terror, blind to what is coming. Countless tiny metal blades have sprouted inside the gun frame, shredding right through the man's gripping hand. Screaming, he rips his bloody hand back and collapses onto the cold ground right in front of Kiwon. "Stand up," Kiwon warns him, "and avoid any place that has metal." Nearby, the rescued young mutant looks up in absolute relief, thanking Kiwon for saving his life. He mutters that he is also a mutant, admitting he thought his story was completely over. "Shut up," Kiwon snaps at him, immediately dialing his boss to report in. He calmly states that the target mutant is secured and ready to be delivered straight to the laboratory. "What do you mean?" the kid stammers, right before a heavy blow knocks him cold. Tossing the phone aside, Kiwon mutters that the kid talked too much anyway, revealing his true broker colors. He is just a ruthless broker selling his own kind. His boss chuckles, calling it classic behavior. The boss adds that Kiwon operates on a totally different level than ordinary lab rats. But Kiwon interrupts and watch closely because he is about to drop a total bombshell. He reports that he has located Kim Jio, the legendary boy holding the heart of resurrection. Total silence. The boss reels in absolute disbelief at the sudden news. Kiwon reminds him of the promised reward, demanding to know if it still stands. "Deal," the boss eagerly confirms, and Kiwon guarantees tomorrow's delivery. Sometime later at home, he stands quietly at the kitchen counter, chopping fresh carrots. As the pot simmers, his mind drifts to his plan for capturing Kim Jio. Setting the trap will be effortless, considering the naive kid does not suspect a thing. He is strong, seriously strong, no longer the weak kid from the lab. His regeneration is completely broken, meaning standard attacks will not work. To bring down a monster like that, Kiwon needs an environment packed to the brim with metal. Breaking from his dark thoughts, he calls out that dinner is ready. His wheelchair-bound sister brightens up. She cheers, calling him the absolute best brother ever, while he serves up the plates. Kiwon smiles, mentioning he added extra potatoes just for her, making Chaeyeon squeal in delight. Gently stroking her hair, he tells her to always ask for more. She eagerly begs him to sit down. She begs him to eat, but Kiwon gently declines the offer. Chaeyeon pouts, visibly disappointed, asking if he really has to leave her alone again. He heads for the door, telling her to eat up, but to make sure she saves him some. Meanwhile, night wraps around another apartment across the city, where Hyeji sits peeling a fresh orange. She peels an orange, knowing Jio had an incredibly exhausting day. Knowing his limits, she realizes he must be completely exhausted right now. Hyeji knows meat and fruit are perfect for boosting energy, so she decides to cook. She prepares a weird meal, piling up a bizarre mountain of strawberries and tangerines. She figures that if the artificial intelligence approved this bizarre combination, then it must work. Hyeji realizes she could never do this alone, and she starts to believe she might actually be a culinary genius. Just then, her sister Hyeon walks in asking if she has eaten yet. Instantly, they start bickering. Hyeon looks at the bizarre dish with pure disgust. Hyeji calls her sister crazy, claiming she knows absolutely nothing about actual cooking. Hyeon notes their other sister will be gone until morning, then warns her to sleep. Meanwhile, Jio says he is totally fine, just waiting for Chaewon to call. Hyeji asks if he loved reuniting with his friend that much. Jio nods happily. He missed him terribly. Hyeji points out she has not known Jio very long but has never seen him so incredibly peaceful. Gio explains Chaewon is his most important friend. He remembers when his friend woke him up, asking what he was doing out there. In the memory, Gio looks away, deeply embarrassed. He replies that he was just sitting alone, but right then, Chaewon notices something terrible, asking about his missing arm. Gio explains he lost it in an experiment some days ago, and it simply has not healed yet. Chaewon shrugs it off, claiming a missing limb is just a minor detail. He reaches out his hand, telling Gio to take it. Immediately, a wild transformation begins. Chaewon forges a massive blade right onto Gio's arm. Gio asks what this is, and Chaewon laughs, saying he just thought it looked awesome. Yuana asks if he is mocking Gio again, but Chaewon insists he upgraded him, and Gio admires the sharp sword. Gio actually finds the whole crazy situation hilarious. Yuana watches, wondering if both of these boys have completely lost their minds. Chaewon extends his fist, praising his friend's excellent taste. Gio is confused by the gesture and asks what it means. Chaewon explains that true friends bump fists to show absolute, unwavering trust. Gio taps his fist back, realizing this is how real companions behave. Returning to the present, Gio mentions that Chaewon was always great and used to follow him everywhere. Hiji nods, saying she is incredibly happy that he finally has such a loyal friend. Hiji invites him to eat, promising a real treat, and honestly, this meal is absolutely wild. Gio looks down, completely shocked, and asks what is on the plate. Hiji proudly explains it is her special recipe, combining fresh strawberries and tangerines. Gio admits he has never seen such a bizarre dish in his life. He tentatively takes a bite of the strange mixture. Hiji asks him how it tastes. Gio tears up, declaring that the food is actually incredible. He highly praises the bizarre combination of sweet fruit and savory meat. Then he offers some to Twigum. The dog reacts instantly with a look of pure, unadulterated disgust. Hiji claims she knows the pup wants a bite but must wait. Meanwhile, Twigum shakes her head in firm, desperate denial. Gio chuckles, saying it is the best meal ever. Hiji beams, telling him to leave the cooking to her from now on. Gio thanks her, feeling truly grateful. Suddenly, his phone begins to vibrate. Out of nowhere, it is Chaewon calling, desperately begging for Gio's help. To help him, Gio asks what happened, and his friend admits he was tracking the lab. But things quickly spiraled completely out of his control. Gio struggles to process the entire situation, while Hiji warns him about his terrifying former prison. This is the place he was held captive. Chaewon begs for backup. Gio immediately agrees, stepping straight into what we all know is a massive trap. Chaewon sends the address. Gio announces he must leave immediately to save his friend. He admits the food is delicious, but he cannot finish his hot meal. Despite all the effort she put into cooking, he warns her to stay behind for her own safety. The location is far too dangerous for her. The scene shifts inside a dark metal warehouse. Entering the cold steel structure, Gio questions if this is the right place. The dead silence is deeply unsettling, though Chaewon gave him this exact location. Gio begins to carefully analyze the area, scanning the dark corners for any signs of movement. Heavy metal plating covers every corner, from the pipes to the floor. Everything here is forged from pure iron, creating a perfect and absolute tactical advantage for Chaewon. Since Chaewon holds an absolute advantage here, his defeat makes no sense. Gio knows he must remain completely alert, refusing to let anyone catch him off guard. He resolves not to let anyone capture him, wondering what could have happened. He imagines Chaewon trapped somewhere, helpless and trembling in fear. Meanwhile, in another room, Chaewon touches the ground. Instantly, massive iron blades sprout from the ground, shooting up fast. They tear straight toward Gio, looking to impale him in an instant. Gio panics at the sudden, relentless onslaught, barely evading another blade at the last second. At the very last second, he stares at the weapon, utterly confused. Chaewon steps forward, coldly thanking Gio for showing up to save him. Gio demands to know what he is doing, especially since he claimed he was being captured. Talk about a brutal reality check. Gio finally realizes what this means. Chaewon coldly smiles, confirming the trap. Gio is forced to block another rising blade with his bare hands, desperately struggling to survive. Chaewon charges forward, but Gio barely manages to evade the lethal incoming strike. Chaewon quickly finds an opening, delivering a devastating kick to his chest. The brutal impact hurls Gio backward, forcing him to painfully cough up fresh blood. He flies straight toward jagged metal spikes, while Chaewon merely watches him with a cold stare. With a dark expression, Chaewon admits he was glad to see him. Having seen only a skeleton for 7 years, he recognized Gio by his voice. He remembers their old laughter, their late-night talks, and the deep bond they shared. Those nostalgia-filled moments are the exact reason Chaewon chose to lie. Chaewon reveals his new life as a broker who hunts core mutants. He delivers these mutants to the laboratory, and his only goal is handing Gio over to them. Chaewon touches the metal wall, sending a massive blade erupting behind Gio. Gio barely evades the massive iron strike, but Chaewon is already lunging straight toward him. With his sword raised, Chaewon looks like a completely different person. There is no hesitation in his eyes. He is not trying to capture Gio alive. It seems Chaewon genuinely wants to kill him, forcing Gio to grab a nearby metal plate. He holds it up to defend himself, still unable to believe this betrayal. Gio screams at his old friend to wake up and explain his betrayal. What is going on here? Gio just wants to talk, but Ki-won touches the metal, coldly warning him that there is nothing left to say. Blades instantly erupt from the metal. Gio can only stare in disbelief. At his former friend, he rolls backward to dodge, asking if he has lost his mind. Gio warns him that the laboratory is full of criminals who cannot be trusted. He begs him to stop being an idiot and wake up to reality. As Gio speaks, he kicks 2 sharp metal shards, but Ki-won does not even answer, keeping a serious face while deflecting the 2 pieces of metal away effortlessly. Gio mutters to himself, desperately trying to analyze his surroundings. He starts running, knowing he cannot land. A clean hit, Ki-won touches the floor, warning that trying to run away will not do any good. Multiple blades erupt from the ground. Ki-won warns that this entire room is made of metal, meaning there is no escape while Gio dodges yet another spike, wondering if Ki-won planned this from the very start. It is clear his true intention is to drag the boy back to the laboratory. Gio screams, demanding a reason and asking if he really does not care about sending a friend to that living hell, but Ki-won appears right behind him, replying that he could not care less. Gio accepts this answer and warns he will fight back as he immediately readies a fist. In response, Ki-won shifts the trajectory of his blade. Even so, the boy takes a deep slash, but Ki-won is immediately caught off guard. Seconds later, he takes a brutal punch straight to the jaw, struggling to process what just happened. The heavy slash barely even seems to have hurt the boy. Then he remembers that years of being used as a lab subject drastically boosted Gio's physical endurance. His regeneration is on an absurd level. He heals the wound the exact moment he is cut, using that split second to strike back. Ki-won quickly charges in, unleashing a furious barrage of strikes without giving Gio a single moment to breathe. The goal is to keep him from attacking while he recovers. Both maintain deadly serious expressions in the heat of combat. Years ago, Gio had been locked up in a separate room, heavy weights binding his limbs. Suddenly, the bindings release. The scientists announce a test on the resurrection heart. At that moment, the doors slide open, revealing the presence of Ki-won on the other side. Gio looks confused, asking what is going on. The researchers explain they want to observe his body, regenerating from damage inflicted by sword heart abilities. Because of this, Ki-won is ordered to attack with full force. The boy asks if these people have lost their minds. He tells them to stop this nonsense, refusing to do anything as he turns his back to leave, but the collar around Ki-won's neck begins delivering severe electric shocks. Gio notices his suffering, begging Ki-won not to hold back and just attack because he will recover. Ki-won calls him crazy, shouting he cannot hurt a friend. Gio tries to soothe him, saying it will not even hurt, but Ki-won replies that he would rather die than do it. This forces Gio to change tactics, and he begins mockingly calling his friend a weakling and telling him to obey the scientists. Ki-won freezes in shock. Gio keeps talking. He claims his only real talent is slicing things apart, and that his power is absolute trash compared to the others. It strikes a devastating blow, a massive hit to Chaewon's pride. Gio tells him to attack. Stop wasting time. Chaewon instantly materializes a sharp blade in his hand. He charges forward with everything he has, landing a brutal slash on his friend right across Gio's chest. Gio feels the blow and wonders if he went a bit too far with his taunts. Chaewon relentlessly attacks and asks if that still feels weak. Pain flares, but Gio says it doesn't hurt at all. Chaewon finishes the assault with one final deep slash, this successfully ends the laboratory's crucial regeneration test. Chaewon stands completely still, breathing heavily after unleashing all his rage. Geo thinks it hurts like hell. But the pain isn't quite as bad as he imagined. Chaewon tells him to keep pretending. The researchers won't notice anything as long as he's covered in blood. Geo asks if he cut his own arm. Chaewon admits it, telling him to shut up quietly before the scientists notice. Geo says there was no need because he would heal anyway, but Chaewon says his regeneration is actually pretty slow. He also mentions hearing that the lab starves Geo of blood just to suppress that regeneration. He tells Geo to stop looking at him with pity because friends don't do that. Back in the present, this bloody battle continues. Geo wonders why his friend has changed so much since they were younger. He plants his foot firmly on the ground, charging forward to throw a punch. Chaewon barely has time to react, but he quickly notices something shocking. The strike stopped clean right in front of his face. He thinks this is impossible. Even after taking a cut, Geo's eyes still hold that same look. Chaewon grinds his teeth in fury, but watch this. Geo slashes him across the chest. He braces himself, landing hard on the ground, and immediately starts backing away to escape. Chaewon sneers that this is all a joke. He tells Geo to give up right now, or else he'll drag him back to the lab or target Hiji and Taeyu instead. He warns he'll go after his friends first. Geo stands still, letting the man slice his wrist. Blood begins dripping onto the floor. Chaewon sneers that they are finally making eye contact. Realizing just how much Geo's friends actually mean to him, he says finding mere students is way too easy. If Geo flees, his friends will pay the price, but Geo shoves his hand straight into Chaewon's mouth. He cuts the inside of Chaewon's mouth, warning him never to cross that line. Geo reminds him that Hiji and Taeyu are Chaewon's friends too. He wants to hear what the guy has to say until the end. After all, they're friends. Geo's heart starts beating faster. The boy warns that he no longer cares about his motives. Chaewon suddenly realizes Geo cut his mouth to absorb the blood. The blood flows right toward Geo, rushing through his veins and completely rebuilding his severed hand. Chaewon gapes in total shock, unable to comprehend how that severed arm just cut. Geo lands a devastating punch, and Chaewon is thrown backward, coughing up blood from the raw impact. He feels at least 3 ribs break, despite his iron-reinforced body that was supposed to withstand any physical blow. He knows with terrifying certainty that taking one more punch means the end of the line. Geo strikes again without hesitation. Chaewon goes flying through the air once more. Chaewon crashes violently into scrap metal. His mind races. What now? This opponent is moving far too quickly, leaving zero time to react. Another brutal strike lands. Chaewon cannot comprehend this ridiculous power. Did drinking his blood really make Geo this insanely strong? Out of desperation, he summons a thick barrage of flying blades. He needs space. He needs to regain control of this entire fight. But Geo casually slips past every single weapon with complete ease. Chaewon grows frantic. Does this guy actually see the blades coming? No, he's dodging purely on raw, terrifying animal instinct. His reaction speed is absolute madness. Geo is far more than just a resurrection heart. That rapid healing, it is not his only trick. His strength and lightning reflexes are nothing like his old skeleton form. Geo has entered an entirely different league. Knowing he will lose, Chaewon touches the ground. He absorbs the surrounding scrap metal, hating that it has come to this. It is a desperate, self-destructive gambit he never wanted to use. He violently sucks iron particles directly into his body. The raw metal shreds through his veins and internal organs. Now watch, his sword heart violently explodes with pure energy. Countless blades suddenly begin sprouting out from his body. He becomes a human storm, surrounded by thousands of lethal blades. He screams that Geo can never dodge this many attacks at once. Geo does not care. He charges straight ahead with everything he has. He targets Chaewon's stomach, rushing directly into the lethal storm. Geo lands a devastating blow, even as the blades slice his skin. Chaewon takes the full impact and immediately hacks up blood. Geo calmly tells him that these tiny cuts do not hurt at all. He can easily endure having his flesh torn apart like this all day. What actually hurts is seeing his close friend in this pathetic state. Geo begins pummeling him ruthlessly without pausing for a single second. Each brutal punch shatters the blades and destroys Chaewon's face. The relentless, bone-shattering beating does not stop for a second. He violently smashes the traitor's face into the ground, screaming about the betrayal. As the metal around them twists, Gio yells that this is what hurts. The agony of betrayal runs deeper than any cuts from those cheap blades. Knowing his friend of 10 years wanted to throw him back to hell. That heavy realization is what is slowly killing him from the inside. He demands to know the reason behind all this absolute madness. He must know what those awful lab bastards promised him. Gio knows how horrific that place is. Shaewon struggles to find his voice. He weakly asks what the point of talking about this is now. He admits he worked for the lab and willingly tried to sell Gio out. He coldly states that they can never be friends again. Gio grits his teeth, absolutely furious, and delivers another brutal punch. He violently grabs the traitor by his collar, demanding to know his meaning. What absolute garbage is he talking about? Gio warns him that he is done playing. He doesn't have the right to decide this alone, let alone run away from everything. He can't just escape his responsibility by claiming it's over, demanding a real explanation. He just wants to understand what is actually going on here. He needs to give some excuse if he ever truly valued their friendship. Suddenly, old memories of their days together begin flashing before his eyes. All the playful moments and the stupid fights they shared come rushing back. From the small victories to the big celebrations, they really had a great bond. With a quiet apology, Gio admits he has no excuse, just as soldiers crash in. Heavily armed troops flood the area, leaving Gio absolutely paralyzed with fear. As the squad closes in, Gio desperately yells out to find who they are. Blinding searchlights force him to shield his eyes, but the soldiers are already aimed. With weapons aimed to kill, they have both of them completely cornered now. An officer barks into his radio, confirming they located the mutants and requesting backup. Gio can barely believe his eyes. This nightmare is actually happening to them. He knows they had strict shoot on-site orders the moment he fled. To the military, Gio is the ultimate prize, and they will kill to capture him. Overwhelmed by panic, the young mutant realizes he must find a way to escape. Thinking fast, he snatches a rusty metal pipe off the dirty factory floor. He hurls the heavy iron rod with incredible force, striking an officer head-on. Pivoting instantly, Gio sprints toward the exit to make a desperate run for it. But as he reaches the exit door, he freezes in absolute, heart-stopping shock. Another armed squad is already waiting on the other side, blockading his path. His escape route is completely cut off, plunging Gio into a state of total despair. Commander Jinyuke radios back to base, confirming they have located both of the targets. He barks orders for his team to hold positions while he contacts High Command. He splits his units to seal the exits, making Gio realize this is the end. If they drag him back to that hellish laboratory, his life is effectively over. Jinyuke prepares to order his men to shoot when a hand suddenly intervenes. A mysterious young woman snatches the transmitter straight out of the officer's grip. She introduces herself as Hyen from the Special Police Task Force for Mutants. Declaring she is taking absolute command, she leaves the squad leader completely stunned. The soldiers whisper in confusion, but she firmly commands them to stand down. Moving past the lowering barrels, she makes her way toward the trembling boy. She quietly asks if he is Gio, urging him to take a breath. She assures him she is here to protect him after hearing everything from her sister. Hyen introduces herself as Haijai's older sibling, trying to earn his trust. While Gio hesitates, Hyen spins around and declares the area under her control. She demands to know if these soldiers are here solely because of the disturbance. She orders them to secure the outer perimeter and call for medical support. Jinyuke furiously tells her to hold on, accusing her unit of breaking protocol. His squad secured the facility first, meaning they have legal jurisdiction here. He insists she should respect the standard division of operational authority. However, her subordinate steps in, pointing out that mutant threats override their command. They hold an active warrant and full investigative files on Lee Ki-won. Facing the official documents, Jinyuke can only claim a misunderstanding. He is not talking about that guy. Instead, he points out the boy in the black shirt. After checking the cameras, they discover he is actually an unregistered mutant. He is treated like a civilian. That puts him directly under their jurisdiction. The soldiers immediately raise their weapons, ordering him to surrender. Gio panics. He is completely unsure of what he should do. Suddenly, Hyen snaps her fingers. Glowing pink lines mark their weapons. They instantly shatter to pieces, leaving all the soldiers utterly speechless. They realize it is the team leader's ability. Hyen warns him directly. He completely fails to understand the situation. Jinuk yells at her in absolute rage. She just used her powers against allies, but she simply snaps her fingers again. Jinuk collapses, screaming in absolute agony right in front of her. She coolly states this is a special investigation into the Hermes laboratory. Nothing is more important. Hearing this, Jinuk is completely shocked. She orders him to look around at the traces of their battle. Jinuk hesitates. Could those kids really be part of this dangerous situation? They are the high-risk mutants from the lab. Getting involved is suicidal. It puts his own life on the line. He quickly orders his men to step back. They hand full control over to her. The police swiftly detain Chwen. They pin him down. Geo nervously asks where they are taking him. The secretary explains he is a wanted criminal facing formal arrest. The investigation will proceed. Geo is left in deep thought. Did he really do something so terrible? The secretary interrupts his thoughts. She explains they need Geo to give an official statement as well. He must cooperate. Geo internally dreads facing that terrifying woman. At the station, she stares at Geo with intense, creepy excitement. Geo finds her gaze deeply unsettling. He nervously asks why she is staring. She tells him to relax. She only called him in for some answers. Her team is actively hunting down the notorious Hermes laboratory. She learned from Hay that Geo escaped their captivity about 3 years ago. He is still a wanted man, but the truth is far worse. All of his friends have already been dragged back to the laboratory. They let them escape on purpose, just to hunt them. Absolute cruelty. They wanted to inflict ultimate despair. They did not just lock them away. Instead, they weaponized their mental weaknesses to completely force submission. They forced them to commit crimes. Geo asks if Chiwon suffered this too. She reveals Chiwon has not spoken a single word, leaving them with only records. Just then, the secretary announces that a voluntary witness has arrived. Geo stares at her. He desperately tries to recognize her face. Cheon introduces herself, stating she already explained everything outside. Hyen crouches down, gently clarifying she has no intention of forcing her. She simply needs to know what her brother saw and why he did it. Cheon hesitates before breaking down, admitting that it is all her fault. Her brother was never like that. She was just terrified of losing him. Hyen warns her, staying silent will only make things far worse. Her brother will have to take the fall for everything completely alone. She looks up and agrees. She simply cannot let him bear this weight alone. Her brother came back 3 years ago, rushing straight to them after escaping the lab. He ran to find his family, but their parents had already passed away. She was left all alone, suffering from severe complications after an accident. She could not do anything. Yiwon could barely even process the devastating reality. Holding his sister tight, he promised to protect her no matter what the cost. He worked day and night, but without a legal identity, survival was brutal. Money was constantly tight, and every single penny went straight to her medical bills. Then the lab came. His sister screamed in terror as they grabbed him. Yiwon ordered them to get their hands off her, threatening to kill them all. But the man just smirked, noting how long it had been since they met. He explains they are not here to arrest him or keep him locked up anymore. Instead, they offer him a clean identity, a job, and money in exchange for help. The lab funded their entire life. In return, they demanded his absolute silence. He kept his promise, but she felt deeply guilty knowing he committed crimes for her. Sobbing, she blames herself and keeps begging him to forgive her. Geo tries to comfort her, explaining that her brother did it all out of love. She is then escorted out. Hyen says that is the whole story, but adds a warning. No matter his desperate reasons, he still tried to sell his friend to the lab. If their scheme had succeeded, Geo would be trapped in that hellhole right now. Geo slowly nods in agreement. He cannot run from the painful truth. Hyen warns him that Yiwon must face severe punishment for his crimes. She asks if Geo wants to make one final call before they lock him away. Geo stares at the phone, shocked. Ultimately, he decides to make the call. He dials the number and stands there in silence, waiting for an answer. When the call connects, Geo says he knows Yiwon is on the other line. He heard the whole story. He knows why he was sold out. But he still demands to know why the guy never said anything to him beforehand. Yiwon sighs heavily on the other end, completely lost for words. That silence only makes Gio angrier. Speak up, he demands. He calls Yiwon a treacherous bastard who should have at least made an excuse. Hiding behind quiet shame is pathetic after trying to drag his friend to hell. Gio calls him garbage, telling him to spend his life rotting in regret. Yiwon stays quiet, keeping his head down as the harsh words hit him. But deep down, he knows this is exactly what he deserved to hear. He prepares to hang up, but Gio coldly warns him about the police. He calls Yiwon absolute trash, but makes sure to clarify that his sister is completely innocent. That is why he must pay for his crimes and serve his time. He tells him to get out and make another delicious burger later. Yiwon slowly puts the phone away, remembering all their old fights from the past. With a soft sigh, he silently thanks him. Gio hangs up his receiver. Hyen asks if that was enough, noting he is incredibly generous. If it were her, the revenge would have been 10 times worse. Gio admits he genuinely believed his friends had successfully escaped that laboratory. He thought they were living happy lives, but those bastards ruined everything. His friends are still locked up. Gio wants to save everyone and asks for her help. Hyen breaks into a soft smile while setting her phone down on the table. She says she will accept his help but asks if he will be fine. Gio replies that it does not matter since he is no longer a weak skeleton. He vows to rescue his friends and tear that laboratory to absolute pieces. Later, at her house, Hyen runs toward her sister. She hugs the girl, saying she missed her terribly after going days without seeing her. Haiji begs her to stop, but Hyen calls her adorable. Haiji tells her she should have taken a shower as soon as she got home. Gio watches and realizes she is completely different here. He used to think she was terrifying, but she is the sweetest person in the world when she is with Haiji. The girl asks if Gio is all right because she heard he had a serious problem with his friend. Gio scratches his head awkwardly, but he replies that everything is fine since her sister handled it all. Haiji says that is a relief, and she asks if he wants some of the dish he could not eat earlier. Hyen finds the topic strained, and her sister points out that she has not eaten yet. She mentions that her sister has to try the sweet and sour recipe she sent by text. Hyen gets confused and asks if she was not joking, wanting to know what bastard gave her the idea to make that dish. Haiji replies that an artificial intelligence provided the cooking time and the detailed recipe. Hyen indignantly wonders if that miserable machine was mocking a human being. The two start arguing over whether that thing is actually edible. Haiji confesses she changed the recipe. She says the machine advised that vitamin C is good for fatigue and she wanted to see her sister energized. The phrase keeps pounding in the head of Hyen. She expects to get a massive stomach ache from it, but she decides that you never know how food tastes until you try it. She tosses it in her mouth and claims it is delicious before even swallowing. Haiji eagerly asks if it is really good. Hyen holds the food in her mouth and says it is just a mix of everything tasty. Haiji celebrates, saying she is happy with the result, but Gio agrees that the dish is extremely tasty. He says it is so good he could eat it every day. He claims the meat and fruit seem to dance in his mouth, and Hyen wonders if the taste buds of the boy have not regenerated. After they finish all the food, Hyen says they need to clear something up before continuing. The first priority is sorting out Gio's living situation. She explains she only let him in due to the emergency. Having an adult man living with 2 women is a problem and sets a bad example for the girl. Haiji reminds her he is being hunted and asks where else he could possibly stay. Hyen says she considered leaving him at headquarters, but keeping his identity a secret is the safest option right now. She grabs her phone and makes a call. She asks if there are any open rooms at the official residence, but the answer on the other end of the line is a flat no. She announces the rooms are full and it will take some time for a spot to open up. Since this is strictly a temporary situation, she allows him to stay at their place for now. Haiji celebrates the decision. In response, Hyen starts writing several things on a piece of paper. Gio watches her, completely lost. Hyen slams the paper down hard. She declares that in exchange his only allowed space is the living room. He is strictly banned from entering Hyaga's bedroom. Even for a short stay, rules must be clear. That list is his final boundary. Break them, and she warns of consequences far worse than anything he could ever imagine. Especially if she catches him in Hyaga's bedroom, he is going to find out the hard way what happens to those who cross that line. Gio agrees quietly. Meanwhile, Hayagi mutters that her sister is overdoing it. Heian shuts down the housing talk. She calls him outside. Gio asks where they are heading. She tells him directly. She wants to test the limits of his mutation. Now. It is early, no one is around. This empty spot works. She reminds him of his promise to help destroy the lab. To do that, she needs his exact powers, Gio explains. His body heals rapidly from injuries, relying entirely on blood. If he absorbs enough, the healing is limitless, but his strength drops the second his supply runs dry. Heian knows. Rapid healing is not his only trick. She watched him earlier and saw brutal damage only insane physical strength could cause. Gio admits he has always been like this, believing his modified heart makes his body way stronger than any human. Heian fires back that the aftermath looked way past simple strength. Gio explains he never actually fully healed back at the laboratory. He only realized his power after escaping when he noticed he gets stronger with more blood. Heian concludes blood is both his medicine and raw fuel. She turns her back and tosses a grip strength meter. She orders him to squeeze the device with everything he has. Gio remembers seeing an identical testing device back at the laboratory. He grips the device, totally unsure if this is really the correct way. To use it, he channels his raw power directly into his right arm. He forces the blood straight to his hand, pouring in every single drop of energy. He squeezes with a crushing grip, but the pressure is too much. The heavy device snaps clean in half. Heian is completely shocked. Honestly, who can blame her? She says that meter was built to withstand 500 kilos of pressure. She quickly realizes Gio packs more raw power than an adult gorilla. Gio apologizes for the destruction. He had no idea he was this strong. He blames the blood. Heian admits he is far more dangerous than she ever imagined. Suddenly, several nearby rocks launch straight up into the air. Gio watches, completely lost. The floating rocks shoot right at him. He manages to dodge the sudden attacks with extreme, effortless ease. But one rogue stone catches him off guard, slamming right into his head. Heian says she controlled the rocks randomly, meaning dodging even one was impressive. With physical skill like that, he must be a very high-grade mutant. Gio rubs his head, noting the stones moved like they had a life of their own. Is her mutation some kind of superpower? Heian stares at him with a deeply puzzled look, telling him to stop acting like a fool since mutant powers are supposed to be purely science fiction. Her own abilities are a high-level government secret, so she can't reveal a thing, but she warns him to keep his own cards close and never let anyone know his secret. In truth, he knows better. Gio nods, realizing she is right. Completely right. Ever since returning to his normal body, he has been using his powers with zero care for the consequences. Suddenly, Hiji hops up to grab their attention, holding out some refreshing drinks for both of them. Gio practically glows with pure joy at the sight. Heian smiles, finding it adorable how he behaves just like a regular teenager. She quickly excuses herself for work call and steps away. Gio takes a long sip of the soda, and Hiji asks if he likes it. He quickly tells her the drink is absolutely amazing, explaining how the sweet flavor basically jumpstarts his brain. It is like a light switch flipping on inside. And Hiji looks relieved, happy that he is enjoying the drink. But then Gio tastes something incredibly familiar. He remembers the burger Chuan gave him back then and realizes he had this exact same soda with it. Hiji notices his tense face, asking what is wrong. Gio plays it cool, nothing to worry about. Important, though she still seems slightly puzzled by his sudden shift. He explains that he just recalled a friend for a moment, bringing back memories of the whole gang. They were incredibly close back then. She mentions how obvious it is that he truly cherishes his friends and cares for them. Gio says they are basically family, his real family. Memories of that brutal laboratory are pure nightmare fuel, but the moments with his comrades made it bearable. They helped him block out a massive chunk of the agonizing pain. Those friends were his lifeline, keeping him breathing in that absolute hell. Talk about true loyalty. He wanted everyone out. He wanted them safe and happy, but instead, he was the only one who escaped. His friends remained completely trapped inside that prison with absolutely nowhere to run. Because of that, he is determined to return and rescue every last one of them, even if it means waging war against the organization and completely destroying the laboratory. Hiji watches him, not fully grasping the weight Of his words, she admits she has no powers and cannot imagine how she could be of any help, but she genuinely wants to support him. He only needs to ask. And she will give it her all. Geo is genuinely taken aback by her offer, but ends up smiling. A few days pass and they are at school. The girls whisper about the new student planning to head over and ask for his socials. Geo cannot believe this is real, questioning if he actually made it. He is nervous, wondering if he will fit in with the normal kids as his heart starts racing. He has not even fully processed this crazy situation yet. Hyan had promised him that if he got into this school, he would get to reunite with a companion from his past. Geo takes a deep breath. He is finally there, standing at the gates. He is frozen, stomach in knots, butterflies flutter, and he is about to throw up. Nearby, girls whisper to the side about how cute he is. Meanwhile, the guys are already wondering if he is good at sports. Geo feels like every single eye is on him. Earlier, Hyan warned him that she would hand him his first assignment. She spent days mapping it out, deciding this would be the ultimate starting point. Right then, Geo pulled a uniform out of the Hiji immediately recognizes the school uniform. Learning her mission starts the very next day. Geo will attend the exact same school as Hiji to keep his mutant identity hidden. Suddenly, a loud radio announcement echoes across the courtyard, drawing everyone over. Instantly, a massive crowd of students surrounds Geo, bombarding him with countless questions. The boy feels completely suffocated by the crowd, remembering Hiji saying he acts weird. He needs to learn how to blend in properly to keep this investigation moving. He has to behave like an ordinary teenager, keeping his guard up every second. Geo constantly reminds himself that nobody can ever suspect he is actually a mutant. Yet facing the entire classroom, he completely freezes, absolutely clueless on how to respond. Terrified they already know his secret, Geo freezes until Tagu suddenly steps in. The big guy slams his hand down hard, telling the noisy classmates to back off. Tagu warns them they are suffocating the new guy, quickly cooking up a cover story. He claims Geo just moved from a quiet neighboring town and does not use internet. He also hypes Geo up as a sports fanatic who abandoned gaming, easing his anxiety. Geo feels massive relief watching Tagu lie through his teeth, claiming they are childhood friends. He quickly shoos the classmates away, saying they have a lot of catching up to do. Once they are alone, Geo offers his gratitude, and Tagu mentions that Hiji briefed him. He knows Geo must play the role of an average kid and promises total support. Tagu boasts that he knows this campus like the back of his hand, offering answers. Irony strikes almost immediately when the teacher calls on Tagu, who sits there utterly clueless. The teacher scoffs, reminding him that exams are close, and he still knows absolutely nothing. He demands to know what specific bacteria caused the Black Plague, putting Tagu on edge. Tagu loudly complains that the teacher is completely underestimating him. Tagu confidently guesses carbon monoxide, only to get smacked on the head. He is completely wrong, prompting a soft chuckle from Geo, who finds this hilarious. Suddenly, the teacher turns his attention to Geo, asking if he can answer instead. Tagu panics, thinking it is incredibly unfair to target the new kid on day one. But without a single second of hesitation, Geo calmly identifies the pestis bacteria. The whole classroom falls silent in surprise, prompting the curious teacher to test him further. When asked about the ancient Indian social hierarchy, Geo effortlessly identifies the caste system. Jaws hit the floor as the new transfer student easily nails every single question. Even the teacher is left speechless, admitting he has never witnessed anything quite like this. He leads the entire classroom in a roaring round of applause for their resident genius. Geo shrinks back in embarrassment, while Tagu watches, deeply confused. He genuinely thought Geo was a bit slow, later demanding to know his secret. He wants to understand how his friend memorized everything, but Geo stays perfectly calm. Geo calmly replies that he has no clue, leaving Tagu thoroughly baffled. He demands to know how someone can pass a quiz without understanding the subject. Geo explains that during his endless days locked away inside the cold, sterile lab, the scientists let him borrow textbooks, which he read repeatedly to pass the time. Just dreaming about finally making real friends at school made him incredibly happy. Hearing this, Tagu actually bursts into tears, overwhelmed with pity for Geo. Knowing Geo memorized encyclopedias out of sheer isolation breaks the big guy's heart. He silently laments Geo's painful childhood just as gym class begins. Tagu eagerly promises to show him a world far more exciting than dusty books. Everyone heads out to the middle of the court, and the teacher announces they are playing dodgeball today. Since it is a joint class, they have to divide into two teams. Taegu instantly calls Class 1 a bunch of total losers, making the kids from Class 2 snap right back. Gio asks what dodgeball is, so Taegu explains the basic rules. He just needs to hurl the ball from his zone and dodge any incoming shots. He tells Gio to relax and put his trust in him, but a split second later, a ball blasts him straight in the face. The students from Class 2 immediately burst out laughing. Taegu tries to act tough and claims the ball only tickled, but there is no time to worry about his bruised pride. Before long, Gio is the only survivor left on the court. Dodgeball is not exactly his specialty, but at least the core rules are simple. He just needs to throw the ball and avoid getting hit, but he has to use only half of his actual physical power. He must hold back. Gio repeats the warning over and over, constantly wondering how he is supposed to actually use exactly half of his strength. An opponent readies a pitch and warns him to pay attention before hurling the ball with everything he has. Gio spots it hurtling right toward him, but he casually slips out of the way. He is still trying to calculate how to hold back his power, muttering to himself the entire time while effortlessly dodging every single ball launched at him. The entire class just stares in complete shock, saying he plays like a professional. This new kid is on another level, especially since he dodges every throw without even moving his feet, making the entire second class look like total amateurs. Taegu whispers for him to stop showing off, since this is not what he had in mind. Gio gets confused. Is he doing something wrong? In that brief moment of absolute distraction, a ball slams straight into his nose. The boy who threw it gasps for air, completely wiped out. The class panics, thinking the attack was way too violent. Gio gets a bloody nose from the impact, but he just laughs it off and tells everyone he is fine. A nearby friend nudges Hei, pointing out how handsome the transfer student is and how insanely athletic he seems. Hei agrees, noting that he seems to be fitting into school life incredibly well. As the afternoon winds down, Taegu asks how his first official day went. He admits that keeping Gio's secret is going to be tough, but he tells his friend to just ask if he ever needs help. Gio looks down and nods, realizing that out here no one is constantly trying to control his every move. People can speak freely without fear, and even the cafeteria, anyone can buy whatever they want if they have the cash. He confesses that this normal life still feels incredibly bizarre to him, but at the end of the day, he had a blast. He knows he would have never gotten to experience this freedom if he had not run into the two of them, thanking them. From the bottom of his heart, Taegu immediately cuts the tension, telling Gio to cut the emotional stuff because they still have a lot of ground to cover. Somewhere else in the city, some shady gangsters gather to ask for updates from the lab. Completely unaware that their merchandise has been diverted, they mention they only need a few more days of playing nice before the job is finally done, but suddenly one of them tells the others to hold up. He wants to know who that guy is standing over there. The young man complains they arrived early and he did not even get to finish his meal. The boss quickly orders his guys to grab they shove the beggar aside. The young man struggles to break free, warning them that he is not finished with his soup yet. The gangster asks what is wrong with this lunatic. The young man comments on his face, asking why it was so hard to see. Taking off his sunglasses, he remarks that it is much better this way. The gangster throws a direct punch right to his face, warning him to get lost while he is still being nice before he loses his life. But in reality, the gangster shatters his entire hand on impact. The young man tells him to stop whining like a baby and stands right up. He says he knows they are coming back from the lab with cash and asks how much they have. The Heart of Rock activates in that exact moment. Dong Kong warns them that he will take that as payment. Meanwhile, during a school soccer match, Gio realizes that it has already been a week since he started attending classes. The first mission the leader gave him was to act like a normal person and adapt to an ordinary life. At first, he was terrified his identity would be discovered. This led him to act strangely, and because of that, he could not enjoy anything. But after studying and eating with boys his age, he realizes something. School is much more fun than he imagined. Taegu passes the ball toward him. Gio thinks about how hard it is to believe he can run and play freely again. He traps the ball on his chest and gets ready to kick, but he trips right at the last second and falls flat on his back. Honestly, you can't help but laugh as they tease his terrible skills. Now Gio truly just looks like a normal person. He feels so happy that he even forgets his stressful life as a fugitive, all thanks to Hiji and Tegu. On the way back home, he mentions that the chicken skewers smell amazing. It is as if the savory aroma were hitting him right in the face. They keep walking and talking. Tegu warns him that if he keeps drooling, he will eat everything all by himself. Gio replies that he wants to share with the puppy, but Hiji warns him that dogs cannot eat anything with so much seasoning until a strange noise echoes. From the dark alley, Kang complains that he is starving because he spent too much of his power fighting way more gangsters than he expected. After fighting all night, he has no strength left to even walk. He desperately needs to eat something. Then he notices a flower bed right ahead and reaches out to grab it, since his power can turn that into raw energy. But Gio suddenly appears and stops him, warning him that he cannot eat that. The young man defends himself, saying he was not trying to eat dirt, but Gio ignores him. He warns him that he tried doing that before and it went terribly wrong. He says it is much better to eat plants. Hiji approaches and says he should not eat those things either. Kang explains that they misunderstood and he is not homeless, but he realizes that this is exactly what they thought of him. A delicious smell suddenly invades his nostrils, prompting him to ask for a little bit of the skewer. Gio thinks to himself that he has not even taken a bite yet. Looking at that guy is like looking at himself in the past, and just like Hiji did, he feels he should show a little kindness, so he offers the guy a bite. Kang eagerly opens his mouth and devours the entire skewer shamelessly right in front of Gio. Right after that, he lets out a loud burp and sighs, saying it feels like he came back to life. He gives thanks for the meal while Gio keeps complaining about his lost skewer. The young man guarantees he will return the favor. He pulls out a bag full of cash and holds it up. Everyone wonders if he actually was just homeless. Kang hands it over, saying this should easily be enough to pay for everything. He steps forward to take the cash, but the bag suddenly vanishes right out of his hands. Two thieves speed past on a motorcycle and snatch it. They keep accelerating, swiping items from absolutely everyone along the way. Kai warns she is calling the cops right now, but she gets distracted and wonders where the hell everyone went. The three of them bolt, shouting that nobody is getting away with their cash. The thieves see they are being chased and just mock them, thinking no pedestrian can catch up to a fast bike. Gio decides to chase them alone. Tegu thinks quickly and realizes that using his powers here with witnesses around would be a disaster. So he lunges forward, grabbing onto Kang's pants to block him. Kang demands to know what this brat is doing. Gio sees the empty street ahead, with absolutely nobody watching. He seizes the moment to trigger his mutant heart. He dashes at normal speed for a brief moment, then shifts into overdrive. The thug glances back in a hurry. He realizes that this kid is sprinting like an absolute demon, closing in on their bike. He is completely stunned, wondering how anyone on foot can match their pace. Gio leaps forward, trying to snatch the money, but they swerve, dodging him by a hair. Gio hits the pavement hard, rolling across the dirt. The thieves wonder what kind of lunatic he was, hoping they finally shook him off, but a bigger shock awaits. The gap between them is not widening. He realizes this relentless freak is definitely not human. His partner scans the street ahead, searching for a way out. Spotting a massive stack of loose bricks, they plan to knock the stack over to crush the pursuing kid. The bricks lose their balance and crash downward. Gio is caught completely off guard, staring right at oncoming disaster. A massive cloud of dust explodes across the pavement, blanketing the street. The thief flips him off, yelling good riddance, but inside that heavy cloud of dust and debris, Gio climbs back up, rubbing his aching head. He insists he must catch those punks no matter what, but bystanders stare at him in sheer bewilderment. Soon, a massive crowd surrounds him. Meanwhile, across town, the thieves park their motorcycle in a quiet alley. They brag about finally shaking their pursuer, scoring a massive haul of easy money. But right then, Kang blocks their path out of nowhere and lands a devastating, crushing blow on the punks. The pair is utterly blindsided. They lose their balance and tumble off their bike, face-planting hard right onto the concrete pavement. Kang demands to know why they ran so desperately. He explains that as long as his boots touch the pavement, he senses every single vibration. Nearby onlookers whisper, wondering if he is some powerful mutant. Kang warns them that the money belongs to someone else, so hand it over. The thief tells him to shut up, snarling that mutant status won't protect his stomach from a Blade because he definitely does not have armor under his shirt in that instant. The other gang members rev their engines. The thief smirks and gloats. That place is their hideout. He says it is the perfect moment to end. Upselling Du-hyung too, Du-hyung simply asks if that is truly what they wanted. Then he touches the ground. Only a few guys here, he notes. Suddenly, his stone heart begins to react. The entire earth starts vibrating, gathering straight into his hand. The bikers start charging right at him, but suddenly the ground begins to shake. Shaking violently, it is a full-blown earthquake. The enemies are left confused as rock pillars sprout from the ground. Du-hyung warns that he will bury this entire hideout with everyone inside, and right after he seals the massive crack that opened up far away at the police station, the secretary hands a file over to the team leader, informing her those are the details on the target she requested earlier. Hain notes it is about a construction company suspected of having deep ties to the research lab. She notices how young the team leader appears and thinks that maybe she should call Geo. The secretary asks if the guy in the file is related to that kid, but she replies that nobody knows for sure. He could very well be the long-lost friend Geo is searching for, or if not, at least a solid clue. Still, her gut tells her he is definitely Geo's old friend. Meanwhile, back at the office, Geo bursts inside, demanding to know if she finally located his friend. She tells him to relax since nothing is actually certain yet. She comments on how sharp his new school uniform looks, asking how classes are going. Geo says everything is fine, but being back in school only makes him miss his friends more. He quickly changes the subject, wanting to know what she meant by finding his friend. She hands over the target file and explains they are currently investigating a target of the exact same age. She asks him to take a look and see if this is indeed his missing friend. Geo takes the document, closely examining the face of the guy in the photo. Then realization hits. That is the homeless guy he met earlier. He clearly remembers him devouring his entire chicken skewer earlier. The girl explains his official name is Dongwook Kong, but Geo does not recognize that face at all. His eyes were damaged back in the lab and never fully healed, but he guarantees he would instantly recognize his friend in person. Still, he has never heard that name before until a sudden realization hits him. He asks her to hold on, noting that the ability to turn to stone is extremely specific. That exact power belonged to Du-hyung Kong, his friend from the lab. With that power, it absolutely must be him. Geo asks if the man really uses rock-based abilities. She nods, confirming his power is indeed called Rock Heart. Geo urgently asks where he is now. Hain explains he is working with the lab just like Chuan. That is likely how he became the boss of a multi-million-dollar construction firm. It is mostly just circumstantial proof right now, but she is certain there is a connection. Geo quietly repeats that his friend is in the same boat as Chuan. Hain asks if he is ready for the mission she has prepared. A smile spreads across Geo's face. He replies that she can count him in. She explains there is a construction firm called Hadun Construction, and Du-hyung Kong runs the entire place. She tells Geo he will be going undercover straight to their construction site, where Dong is currently working. The goal here is simple: find his friend inside and figure out exactly what kind of deal he made with the lab, but she warns him to keep in mind that his friends have changed. Dong is much more deeply mixed up with the lab than Chun ever was. She tells him to stay sharp and question absolutely everything. In fact, it would be even better if he can convince Dong to flip sides. That way, the lab hiding and exploiting those poor test subjects will lose its power, allowing them to finally bring the whole dark truth to light. The scene cuts and Taegu gets startled right in the middle of his shift. He realizes he promised to help Geo find his friend, but never expected this brutal manual labor. Geo asks if Taegu is doing okay, saying he appreciates all the help, but his buddy does not need to work himself to death. Taegu brushes it off immediately, claiming this is a total piece of cake and Geo shouldn't worry. He reminds him they are undercover at his friend's company, telling Geo to just trust him. Taegu then asks where exactly they can find this guy, but Geo admits he has absolutely no clue. Taegu panics, realizing the actual plan was simply to wander around this massive construction site all day, hoping to stumble upon their target. Geo innocently asks if that is a problem, but Taegu says they will never locate him that way and should just ask the other workers. They just need to butter up some of the veteran crew. Right then, a grumpy site manager angrily crushes a can. He grumbles that they gave these kids a job, and they are already slacking off. The manager barks that they should know everyone here is incredibly busy. He rants that kids today always run away like dogs when the work gets tough, warning Gio to stop running with those heavy loads before he trips and gets seriously hurt. He commands the boys to move every bit of material within an hour or they can pack their bags and leave. Naturally, both boys agree right away. The older workers walk off, muttering they never should have hired kids for this heavy job. Tegu complains that those guys did not even give them a chance to ask about his friend. He figures they must finish working first, but wonders how on earth they can move a literal mountain of debris in just an hour. Gio points out that the manager yelled at him for running, so since running is out of the question, he comes up with a different strategy: stack way more weight on his back and just walk slowly. Tegu panics, warning him that pile weighs around 160 kilos, way too heavy for any normal person. The surrounding workers are. Now check this out. They stare in absolute shock as Gio strolls by, claiming he is merely walking very quickly. Tegu runs after him, yelling for him to wait. The crew wonders where this freakish strength is coming from, but soon Tegu announces they have successfully cleared all the cement. With the entire job done, Tegu eagerly asks what they should do next. One worker remarks that these kids have endless energy, pointing out there is another pile on the far side, but before he can even finish his sentence, Gio is off. He zooms past the workers, carrying the heavy load effortlessly. The men look on, completely dumbfounded. Soon the boys report that the entire load is cleared, asking what else they can tackle. They dive right into the heavy mixing, hand tools to the crew, and carry massive wooden beams entirely on their own. Seeing this, the veteran crew completely changes their tune, praising these boys as incredibly hardworking, fast, and reliable. If every kid worked like this, they would be welcomed with open arms. Suddenly, a live power cable snaps and begins whipping violently through the air. The wire lashes out dangerously. A young worker screams for everyone to back away. The cable almost strikes Mr. Song directly, but Gio jumps right in front of him. Song screams his name in sheer panic as Gio takes the full force of it. He absorbs the high voltage easily. Finally, someone shuts down the main power. Gio slumps to the ground as everyone quickly gathers to see if he is all right. Gio insists he is fine and untouched, while silently realizing how close of a call that was. The current was weak enough to spare him from burns, but he came incredibly close to exposing himself. He almost revealed his mutant identity to everyone. The grateful workers tell him they owe him big time. They begin treating Gio like royalty after that. Gio is glad everything worked out so well. But he realizes these building sites are far more dangerous than he imagined. He understands why these workers are always on edge, despite their good hearts. Gio points out that the crew should respect them enough by now to share some info. Since asking directly would look highly suspicious, they decide to take a much subtler approach. Gio casually strikes up a conversation, asking if any young guys work nearby. But the workers get highly confused and immediately start questioning Tu about his own age. They laughingly tell Tu he looks like he is at least 30 years old. Tu angrily snaps that he is actually 17, while Gio explains they want a firm with younger guys. The crew mentions that Hoden Construction has several employees in their 20s. Gio asks where they can find them. The workers warn that it is an incredibly brutal place. But they make good money because the daily grind there is twice as exhausting. Tu asks where those guys usually hang out. Just then, one of the older workers points. He tells them the crew is arriving right now as a white van pulls up beside them. A guy steps out of the vehicle. Teague immediately finds his flashy outfit incredibly strange. He cannot comprehend how average construction workers can afford such luxury clothes. They're decked out in high-end brands, making Tu desperately want to know how much they earn. As Tu draws attention, Du Hyung steps out of the vehicle right behind them. He slowly slides off his sunglasses as his eyes lock onto a very familiar face. He realizes Gio is the exact guy who gave him that chicken skewer. Wait, they actually crossed paths before any of this even started. Gio thinks back to his dark days in the lab. He knows this man better than anyone. It has been over 10 long years, yet Gio confidently says they have met before. Du Hyung marvels at how small the world is, but Gio quickly replies that this is no coincidence. Gio reveals he already knew Du Hyung worked here. Du Hyung acts completely shocked by the news. He asks how Gio knew. Gio decides that today he will join this firm. He is determined to unearth everything and expose the dark secrets hidden beneath the surface. Gio wants to uncover the suspicious connection between Du Hyung and that mysterious lab. Whether Du Hyung is a willing partner or being blackmailed, they will become friends again eventually. Just like the old days, later, inside the main office, Du Hyung tries to process this. He asks if the two boys really traveled all this way just to join his company. He appreciates the enthusiasm, but warns them that getting hired is not that simple. Gio already expected this pushback, knowing his old friend was always a man of strict rules. So Gio confidently declares that the boss will soon realize just how much he needs him. Du Hyung completely fails to understand what Gio means by that. Gio simply tells him to wait. He decides to show them in practice, rising from his chair while the others sit clueless. Gio steps up and starts shifting the cups and folders around on the desk. This catches Do-young completely off guard as the young guy rearranges his workspace. Tagu immediately barks out a warning, telling him to stop touching other people's things. The rest of the crew just stands there, totally baffled by what they are seeing. To top it off, Gio shoves a heavy storage cabinet right to the side. He calmly announces that it is finished, claiming this is the ultimate layout. The crew starts grumbling immediately, but Do-young raises his hand to quiet them down. He asks Gio to explain the logic behind this sudden new arrangement. Gio explains that since the boss is right-handed, his coffee belongs on the right. Next, all files must be organized strictly by their date of arrival. The pen holder stays tucked in a corner out of the way, yet remains close. Intrigued, Do-young asks why on earth he shifted the heavy cabinet. Gio points out that the furniture was completely blocking the window. Without that blockage, the boss gets a direct line of sight to the construction site. The others jeer, yelling that this has to be some kind of bad joke. They argue they had a system, but Gio hits back with a cold truth. If their system actually worked, today's accident would have never occurred. Real efficiency is not about speed, it is about keeping people safe. You need a clear workspace to spot hazards and react instantly during an emergency. He declares that this basic mindset is the only real way to prevent disasters. Hearing this, Do-young agrees, realizing they completely missed the warning signs earlier. He spins around to ask if the site manager even knew an accident happened. The manager stammers that he is still waiting on the official written report. Do-young snaps back, asking if he really needs a paper to see what is right there. All he had to do was look at the scattered materials left on the ground. Any decent manager would have noticed the missing crew members and the delays. Just a glance at the falling schedule should have raised red flags immediately. After delivering that harsh scolding, the boss points a finger straight at Gio. Gio just stares back in silence, but then Do-young suddenly cracks a wide grin. He bursts out laughing, admitting Gio exposed a massive blind spot he overlooked. The boss decides it is time to overhaul their entire operation from scratch. Gio quietly reflects on how he was actually the one who taught him this. Do-young continues organizing the gear, proving his point about maximizing efficiency. Gio gets quite excited, relieved that nobody got hurt. He admits he wants to learn these exact survival and management skills from them. Do-young looks slightly embarrassed, but warmly offers to show him the ropes. Back in the present, Do-young points at Gio and makes an announcement. He declares that Gio is officially starting his very first day at the company. The boss needs to step out and expects all reports finished before he returns. Gio bows respectfully, and Tagu even throws a quick compliment his way. Gio realizes he knows Do-young incredibly well, but some mysteries still remain. He still needs to uncover what kind of operation they are running here. Honestly, the current atmosphere in this room is far from friendly. Every single guy around him looks absolutely furious as tension builds. Taegu complains they are stuck doing the heavy lifting until the boss gets back. And Gio replies that this is already a huge victory, but a worker suddenly kicks the pipe and demands to know who told them to place it like that, pointing out the piece. Should face the other way, Gio quickly defends himself, saying they did exactly what was asked. But the guy barks at him to shut his mouth and flip the pipe already. Another hour passes, the worker kicks the pipe yet again. Demanding to know why they are laying the drainage pipe now, Taegu fails to understand his game. The worker loudly complains that they have not even leveled the slope yet, and nobody told them to lay any pipes first. Taegu insists they only followed the exact orders he gave them, but the angry man grabs his shirt, demanding to know if he is talking back. He tells him to get lost. If he does not like it, he barks at Taegu to stop whining and tear everything out. Within an hour, Taegu glances to the side right after. He catches the guy, flashing a mocking smirk. Yep, these guys are totally messing with them. On purpose, this only makes Taegu feel even more infuriated by the whole situation. He tells Gio he is heading to the bathroom. On his way, he overhears the workers laughing. They call Gio a brat who acts like he owns the place, complaining they already have too many mouths to feed and should not be splitting their cash with some kid. They figure the foreman has their back. Anyway, Taegu bangs on the door and calls out their cheap talk, telling them they are dead wrong if they think he will just sit back and take this. He promises to knock some sense into their heads. Everyone gasps. When did he sneak up to the door? Taegu grabs one guy by the shirt, saying they are completely sabotaging the job. The giant guy sneers that he really wants to beat him to a pulp but cannot do it. Taegu fires back, saying he started the provocation and that he also knows how to use his fists incredibly well. Another guy steps in to break it up, warning them not to fight. He says the kid does not even know the basics and should be thankful he got hired because of his friend. Taegu gets even more irritated by the sheer audacity of the guy. He demands to know if they think they are the only ones working and if he thinks he is stronger than everyone else. The worker replies that if that is the case, they can settle this another way. He challenges Taegu to settle everything with an arm wrestling match, promising that if Taegu wins, they will show respect and stop bothering them. Taegu thinks this suddenly turned into a pretty childish game. Believe me, they picked the wrong guy. He is absolutely sure he will turn that mocking look into pure regret. He expects an easy win, but Taegu has his arm slammed against the table before he can even react. The young man is left completely bewildered, trying to process what just happened. This opponent is incredibly skilled. If this were a real fight, he would be completely screwed. The guy announces that both of them need to resign now that Taegu has lost. The rules are clear. The loser packs up and leaves. Taegu realizes this was their plan all along. His arm hit the table only once, but the pain is unbearable. To make matters worse, the man squeezes his hand even harder, warning that they are going for another round. Taegu raises his free hand and apologizes, admitting he accepts defeat, but his friend is not going to let this go. They need another option to settle this another way. A worker says he will deal with the friend himself, but Taegu warns them that it is completely useless. Nobody in this room can break that guy's absolute stubbornness. Taegu knows that if Gio steps in, he will destroy every single one of them. He begs them to just drop it, but the thugs snap back, saying it is too late to walk away clean. They are leaving with crushed hands, right here, right now. The man slams Tagu's hand onto the table, over and over. Tagu screams in agony. The brute raises his arm for one final bone-crushing blow, but right in that split second, Gio places his hand flat on the wood. The entire room goes dead silent. Chill vibes gone instantly. Tagu calls his name. Gio calmly tells them his rules are a little different. He challenges the massive brute to a real match. The thugs just burst out laughing, but Gio's expression remains completely blank and stone cold. Tagu calls them a bunch of cowards. The thugs mockingly announce a change of rules. The rookie is going to pay the hospital bill. The brute steps up. He says he was going to go easy out of pity, but his mind is completely changed. He warns Gio that his arm is about to snap. They lock hands. The thug thinks he is just dealing with some clueless, arrogant kid. He decides to crush Gio's hand to teach them both a brutal lesson. He boasts that this match is going to be over in literally 1 second. But in the absolute blink of an eye, Gio viciously slams the brute's arm down. The bone snaps completely in half. The guy screams in absolute agonizing pain. The entire gang is frozen in pure shock. Gio coldly orders him to reset. Get back to the starting position. He tells him the match is not over, and slams that broken arm against the wood again. The thug collapses, rolling on the floor in agony, clutching his hand. The others panic. They scream for Supervisor Joe and charge at Gio all at once, but Gio does not even flinch. He easily takes down 2 of them with one hand, until a thug sneaks up and strikes his back with a heavy wooden club. But Gio turns and counterpunches, sending the guy flying backward into his friends. The foreman realized Gio is a total monster. He shouts at them to rush him together, but a sudden voice commands all the idiots to freeze. The thugs stop dead in their tracks. Gio slowly turns his head. Dongyang has finally arrived. He demands to know what the hell is going on. A thug tries to make an excuse, but Dongyang smashes his head against the wall. As the guy begs, Dongyang tells them they should be training instead of bullying. Tagu panics, realizing the consequences. Gio might actually get fired, so he lies and claims it was a misunderstanding, and that they were just arm wrestling, but Gio immediately cuts through the lie, pointing out that the guy was laying hands on his friend first. Dongyang says he already knows since they pull this trash all the time, but warns that Gio has crossed a massive line. He looks him in the eye. Ordering Gio to look at the bloody mess he left, Gio snaps right back, saying his friend is in the exact same state, with a hand so swollen he cannot use it. He explains that hitting back hard was the only way to stop them from messing with them. Dongyang grunts, noting how this kid loves talking back to the very bitter end. He says he has been pretty soft so far, but Gio is practically begging for a beating. Gio replies he does not want to get hit, but staying quiet changes absolutely nothing. Hearing this, Dongyang is suddenly struck by a powerful wave of nostalgia. It takes him back to the old days when he said the experiments would continue regardless. Gio stands firm, keeping quiet never changes anything. He can handle any punishment, but he refuses to watch a friend get hurt. Watching him, Dongyang quietly admits this kid is the spitting image of his younger self. Gio panics, crying out that they are about to get kicked onto the streets. But Dongyang stops him, asking why he thinks Gio would just run off after causing trouble. Gio looks up in complete surprise as Dongyang lays out the real situation. The guard with the broken arm is hospital-bound, meaning someone has to cover his shift. A foreman chimes in, suggesting the other guys can easily take the shift. Dongyang snaps and tells him to shut his mouth, warning that his patience is running dangerously thin. Gio speaks up, asking if he simply needs to take over the injured guard's job. Dongyang tells him to stop worrying about the small stuff for now. He just needs to show up at 5 in the morning so he can train him personally. The very next morning, Gio waits anxiously, wondering if he is about to uncover some lab secrets. He tries to guess what kind of work is waiting for him until Dongyang finally appears. Dongyang gruffly orders the kid to follow him because they are heading deep underground. He hits the button for a sketchy, ancient elevator, making Gio wonder what lies below. As the rusty freight elevator slowly descends, Gio tries to piece together the mystery. Dongyang looks over, asking the kid if he is starting to feel a bit nervous. Gio admits he is just a little, and Dongyang chuckles, teasing him about yesterday. He had no fear confronting the boss yesterday, but now he is suddenly losing his nerve. Gio fires back, stating he just hates seeing a friend deal with such complete cowards. Dongyang nods, admitting that attitude is way better than fools who are all talk. But his tone instantly turns dead serious, warning Gio to never pull a stunt like that again. He makes it crystal clear that if Gio stirs up trouble down here, he is dead. Talk about a chilling threat. The elevator finally grinds to a halt. Dongyang announces their arrival, and Gio looks out in total shock. Beneath the construction site lies an absolute labyrinth of massive, endless tunnels. He wonders what they are actually planning to do with this hidden facility. Dongyang warns him everything here is a top-secret corporate project before ordering Gio to work. Gio points to some heavy barrels, asking what is inside, but Dongyang snaps at him. He demands every single barrel be moved by tonight without a single complaint. After all, Gio was the one who trashed his workers. He walks away, leaving him to it. Gio actually smiles in relief, genuinely happy to see his old partner after so long. He almost blurts out his true identity, but he needs to uncover their schemes first. Once he figures out what they are hiding, only then will he reveal himself. He focuses on the barrels, dying to know what is actually kept inside. They are tightly sealed, but he decides to pry one open anyway. With effortless strength, he rips the lid off to inspect the mysterious cargo. He immediately recognizes that distinct, toxic chemical smell from the old laboratory. He touches the liquid to test it. He knows absorbing it will reveal its secrets. Instantly he freezes, absolutely still. This sensation is horribly, painfully familiar to him. That same agony from before. Pulling his hand back, his arm looks completely ruined. This is the exact chemical they used on him during those dark human experiments. What is the Kangdong gang planning here? Gio knows he must contact Haiyan fast. This liquid is direct proof of their link. Meanwhile, in another room, Dongyang watches. Staring intently at the camera feeds, his own hands start turning to stone. He mutters to himself that he knew the new recruit was no ordinary street punk. Now he knows for sure the kid is a genuine mutant, the real deal. Breaking into that barrel shows he belongs to some faction trying to steal their supply. He will force every secret out of him once his thugs drag him in. Dongyang warns his crew over the radio that the intruder has healing powers. He commands them to show no mercy and push this healing ability to its absolute limit. His plan is to test this recovery limit before personally putting an end to him. Back in the lab, Gio tries to piece together what Dongyang is actually planning. The bastard knew his identity from day one and approached him completely on purpose. Gio figured Dongyang was just some arrogant idiot, but he was completely wrong. Dongyang understood him perfectly, pulling his emotional strings with total precision. He was studied like a specimen. They expected his infiltration all along. Gio honestly has no clue what the man wants. Just then, the door flies open. A massive crowd of thugs floods inside. Gio has truly stepped into a hornet's nest. They yell at him to get ready, bragging that they already know his secret. Gio is caught off guard. He demands to know what is going on here. They sneer that they saw everything on camera, calling him a freakish mutant bastard. The mob rushes him together, but Gio sends the first thug flying across the room. With a single brutal strike, he starts dismantling them one by one without mercy. Dongyang watches the feed, wondering if the kid possesses physical reinforcement. Gio knows there is no turning back. If they block his path, he will break through. Pure, unadulterated brute force, he launches another gangster straight into the wall. The remaining fighters are paralyzed with fear, but Gio gives them zero room to breathe. He dominates the room until a desperate group manages to tackle him to the floor. A wooden bat cracks directly across his face. Gio takes the blows without stopping. The thug mocks his healing, shouting that his weapon breaks bones easily. But Gio responds by driving a heavy fist straight through his face. He tosses the body aside. Watching this, Dongyang admits his strength is impressive. Even so, he can tell the kid is still holding back his true potential. That limit is about to be tested. Another fighter charges him swinging heavy chains. Multiple thugs pile on to restrain Gio, wrapping the cold metal around him. They bind every single limb tightly, yet they feel his muscles tensing to rise. One thug readies a knife, screaming for the others to pin him to the floor. He plans to sever Gio's nerves to stop his movement before stabbing him repeatedly. But as he prepares another plunge, a wave of sheer terror washes over him. Despite taking dozens of direct blade strikes, the kid's face does not even flinch. It is an utterly terrifying, inhuman sight. Gio slowly presses his fingers to the floor. He activates his resurrection heart. Suddenly, the spilled blood begins to stir. Dongyang notices something quite strange. Gio is absorbing all the spilled blood. Pooling on the floor, his broken body begins to regenerate. His wounds are closing up way faster than they can inflict damage. It is a rare, completely unreal level of healing. Plus, he gets stronger with every single drop he takes in. He is acting like a runaway train now. Dongyang desperately wants to know what kind of heart the boy possesses. Meanwhile, Gio braces for battle. Vanishing instantly, he punches a thug hard. Others fly through the air. Gio drops them one by one. The blonde man stands shocked by his speed, but Gio is already standing right in front of him. He drives a brutal punch straight into the man's chest, coughing up a huge spray of blood. The blonde fighter collapses right into his comrade's arms. Dodging another strike, he grips the concrete with unbelievable strength, tearing up the entire floor. The onlookers are losing their minds at this madness as he lifts a massive concrete slab. Gio prepares to hurl the slab. Now watch this. He hurls the massive stone right at his shocked enemies. They can only raise their arms in a desperate bid to defend themselves. In that exact moment, a thick cloud of dust explodes outward. The haze slowly clears to reveal they are unharmed. Gio keeps a highly serious expression as a stone hand shatters the thrown slab. Dongyang has stepped in. He stands directly in front of Gio and announces he has won. Question: he demands to know exactly what kind of heart the boy is hiding inside. The giant notes he has seen heart mutants, but healing in under a second is entirely new. Just looking at that freakish skill, he realizes the boy is high tier with an incredibly enhanced body. When thinking about that kind of healing, only one other kid comes to mind, but his ability was weak. And more to the point, that boy died in a massive explosion. Gio Remains silent, Dongyang takes this quietness as a pretty clear answer. He warns that he will just have to beat some proper manners into him. Gio slips the heavy attacks with total ease. He knows it is far too early to reveal his identity. He must find his link to lab connections. That is why he keeps his suspicions about Kang Dongyang quiet until the end. Gio keeps dodging until Dongyang prepares a brutal punch. He mocks the boy's healing. He warns that relying entirely on regeneration is a massive mistake because this next strike is going to do far more than bruise him. There will not be a single piece of his body left intact. Right then, several massive stone pillars erupt from the ground, targeting Gio directly. Gio is violently slammed back against a massive rock wall. Dongyang warns that this is his absolute last warning. Rocks encase his massive fist until it is now encased in an incredibly thick, heavy layer of stone armor. He demands to know who sent him. Suddenly, Gio realizes his feet are completely trapped. The floor, the heavy stone, has locked his legs in place. Dongyang notices that the stubborn kid is actively choosing to stay completely silent despite the lethal threat. Then he unleashes a savage, earth-shaking punch straight to the kid's face. Gio flies backward with so much momentum that he smashes right through the solid rock wall. The factory workers are shaken by what they just saw. The crowd freezes while Dongyang stands rooted to the spot. Meanwhile, Gio's severed head gets ripped completely off and goes flying clean through the air. Pure chaos. The blow was so brutal his entire body is split wide open. As his bloody, broken remains drop to the ground, the street thugs watch in absolute shock. They are frozen. Then, Gio's severed head suddenly begins to twitch on the floor. Blood sprays from his neck in a weird pattern, acting like sticky glue that drags his head snaps right back onto his shoulders as his body fully regenerates. Honestly, who wouldn't be terrified seeing a guy stand right back up after getting decapitated? Gio strikes fast, driving a heavy, devastating punch straight into his opponent's rock-hard stomach. The blow buries deep, making Dongyang wonder if the kid is still growing stronger. He keeps recovering and somehow getting stronger as the sheer impact of the blast sends him flying. Dongyang digs his heels into the dirt, sliding backward across the concrete until he grinds to a halt to face Gio head-on, warning him that the strike was useless. Mocking him, he sneers that mere flesh and bone can never hope to pierce his stone skin. You will only end up breaking your own arm, he mocks, but then he notices something crazy. He spoke way too soon, because the kid's broken arm is already snapping back together. Totally healed, the unbelievable recovery triggers a dark memory from his past. He remembers Kim Gio clearly, recalling how the fragile boy used to take hours to heal. Even a simple broken arm took forever, yet this monster's face now haunts him. This silent powerhouse can literally put his own head back on in seconds. There is absolutely no way this terrifying beast is the same weakling he used to look down on. Suspecting someone this ridiculously strong, he assumes he is an agent sent to steal lab secrets. But honestly, it does not matter who this freaky intruder actually is. No one gets past him to touch that facility, so he unleashes a massive stone attack. Gio ends up trapped under heavy rocks, but he does not stay down long. He shatters the rocks with ease and rushes straight forward like an unstoppable train. Staring in shock, Dongyang cannot react in time and takes a brutal punch to the jaw. Still, he sneers at Gio to give up, claiming these weak punches are pointless. He boasts that the secret research facility will uncover his entire identity once he is delivered. Gio knew it. This is all the proof the kid ever needed. This scumbag has been trafficking innocent mutants to the lab, and he will pay for it. What garbage? Dongyang demands to know what he means. Giving him absolutely zero time to recover, Gio immediately slams another devastating, heavy fist straight ahead. Face your sins, he roars at him to look at his crimes. Dongyang spits back that none of this garbage makes sense because he will soon be rich. The giant aggressively promises to sell the kid's body to the highest possible bidder very soon. Gio snaps back that in that case, he will forcefully knock some sense straight into him, suddenly drawing in every single drop of blood spilled all across the floor. Now watch closely, he is actually pulling in all the spilled blood to power up. It is insane. A massive whirlpool of blood rushes back into his body. Realizing the monster is actively charging up his power, Dongyang takes another absolutely brutal gut punch. He wheezes, calling Gio a complete idiot for wasting such an incredible ability. Human bones can never shatter solid rock, he repeats with a laugh. To him, this fight is honestly getting completely ridiculous, but Gio completely ignores the trash talk. Gio keeps throwing relentless, heavy strikes, leaving Dongyang struggling to warn him. 1,000 punches will not change a thing, the only thing breaking is your hand. But Gio does not care at all, preparing to launch his next strike. He slams his fist right into Dongyang's ribs with terrifying, bone-crushing force. For the first time, Dongyang actually feels the pain, wondering how these hits work. Gio moves faster than ever, landing a heavy hook right on his chin. Giving the giant absolutely no room to breathe, Gio declares he will strike 1,000 more times. Right then, Dongyang realizes he is dealing with an absolute lunatic. Forced onto the defensive, he scrambles to dodge, noticing Gio does not care. The kid is fine with his own body tearing apart, throwing himself forward. This was all to find a single weak point, and stone cracks keep growing. Desperate, Dongyang tries to counter by swinging a massive stone strike. His attack craters the earth, but the giant instantly realizes Gio is gone. Out of nowhere, Gio strikes his chest again with everything he has got. The impact launches the massive giant backward like he weighs absolutely nothing. Dongyang cannot track that speed. He hits the dirt trying to gather himself. A wave of blinding pain surges through his head as his armor fractures. Looking at his shattered stone skin, he wonders if this kid even feels pain. It hits him now, trying to capture this monster alive was a mistake. No holding back, to survive he has to go all out. Suddenly, Dongyang begins swallowing jagged rocks straight off the ground. Gio watches in pure confusion, trying to make sense of this transformation. Dongyang's flesh tears open as his heart violently reacts to the raw minerals. "Get out of here if you want to live," he screams to his men. They do not hesitate, instantly scattering for safety as Dongyang's heart fills with stone. His physical density spikes, pushing past every human limit. The earth begins to shake. Dongyang clenches his fists, promising total destruction. He pulls up the ground, forming a massive, terrifying boulder right above them. Gio stands frozen, completely shocked that anyone could control something so massive. If that monstrous rock connects, there will not even be dust left of him. His only option now is to run as fast as possible. "This is the end for you," Dongyang roars as stone walls rise to trap Gio. Massive rocks slam together, completely crushing the helpless boy from every side. Jagged stone debris explodes outward. Dongyang never expected a fight this brutal. He never expected a mutant to force him to use 100% of his power. Gasping heavily, he spits dark blood onto the shattered earth. He laments the lost fortune of delivering the kid alive, but he had no choice. But watch closely through the rising dust. He spots something deeply unsettling. Emerging from the thick smoke and rubble, a raw skeleton slowly stands up. Dongyang stares in pure disbelief. How could anyone survive an impact like that? Gio's torn flesh tries to regenerate from nothing, but he suddenly collapses. Dongyang sighs with relief. Even a broken healing ability has its absolute limits. He admits he felt a cold chill, thinking the kid was actually getting back up. At least there is enough left of him to deliver to the research lab. But then the unthinkable happens. That bare skeleton arm begins to move. Dongyang freezes completely, barely able to find his words. This is impossible. All the blood on the ground suddenly begins to flow toward him. The pool of blood is quickly absorbed by his skeletal arms. Gio charges forward despite being reduced to nothing but bare bone, completely shocking Dongyang. He has never heard of an immortal mutant before. This regeneration is completely unique because his power literally denies the entire concept of death. Then Gio lands a solid, crushing blow right to his abdomen. Dongyang coughs up a lot of blood as the violent impact throws him into the wall. He collapses, coughing violently as Gio slowly walks over to him. Dongyang lifts his head, looks up, and desperately asks what kind of power this is. Panic makes him demand his true identity, but realization suddenly hits him. He cannot believe his own eyes because that skeleton looks exactly like his old friend. Wondering if his friend had actually survived that fatal incident, he stares in shock. Asking if it is really him standing there, he quietly calls out the name, Kim Gio. He wonders why his friend hid his true ability to infiltrate this company. Gio touches his hand to the cold ground once more, preparing to unleash his ultimate power. The boy prepares to charge forward with absolutely everything he has left. Dongyang realizes with pure dread that Gio is genuinely trying to kill him right now. Knowing he cannot survive another hit, he screams his friend's name once more. He screams in terror asking if Gio is actually going to murder his old friend. Screaming for him to stop, Gio halts his punch just in time. Later, back in his quiet office, Dong-young cannot stop thinking about the return of Kim Gio. He brought him there to talk, but this is not the Gio he knew. Absolutely everything has changed, from his gentle personality to those terrifying and monstrous abilities. Seriously, how do you even fight someone who is literally immortal like that? He wonders just how much his old friend has actually changed. Offering him some coffee, Dong-young views this entire situation as a victory. Gio still has a very soft heart, so keeping him close would be a major triumph. Thinking he knows his friend well, he admits he thought Gio had died. Dong-young asks why he hid his identity and even pretended to be an ordinary office worker. Gio cuts the conversation short, telling him to give him his hand first. Dong-young slowly extends his hand, completely confused about what his friend wants to do now. He mentions that he got a small scratch earlier during their clash. Gio calmly replies that he already knows, which is exactly why he wanted his hand. As Gio begins to focus, a memory of training with Heen flashes back. In the flashback, she had asked if he was still worried about the Chaewon issue. Gio confirms that was indeed the problem. He wanted to know what he should do if a similar situation ever happened again. She answered him directly, he would simply have to fight them. But Gio felt that fighting a friend was too painful after missing them for years. Ultimately, he wondered if there was no way to convince them by talking. Still, she told him to get real and asked what he truly wanted to do. Gio replied that he wanted to save the friends trapped inside the lab. She pointed out that those who helped them before cannot be saved with simple words. They are all high-ranking mutants now, holding major roles in the enemy group. Knowing they will kill without a second thought, he must be ready. They are already cold-blooded criminals. Does he honestly think they will listen? If he tries, they will just use him, ruthlessly, without a second thought. Used coldly, calculatedly, they will throw him straight into the fire too. Burned just like Chwan, his friends need help, but they are dangerous. Lethal even, Gio quietly reflects on the chilling chance of being killed. He nods, it is true, they are no longer the sweet kids he knew. If he keeps playing nice, he will lose everyone else too. So he asks what must change to save them. In response, Hien smiles. She respects his steel resolve, but warns he has it all wrong. First, change the mindset. Stop thinking of those monsters as old friends. To truly save them, he must stand above them as their master. Gio is completely lost. Silence hangs. Suddenly, the girl bites her finger. She demands he drink her blood. Now, back in the tense present, Gio announces that his preparation is complete, then warns Do-young never to lie again. In an instant, his focus sharpens. He locks onto the target's racing heartbeat. He can hear it clearly. Do-young is baffled. How is this possible? Gio explains it is the blood. Absorbing Hien's power unlocked this unique gift. She told him earlier that investigators documented a rare mutant ability. True blood mutants can sense heartbeats, reading intentions through raw pulse. This gives him an incredible advantage. Gio presses on with a question. Why work for the lab after 10 brutal years of suffering there? Do-young freezes in horror. The kid actually hears his terrified heartbeat. He has returned as an absolute monster. What did they do to him? Shaking, the man asks just one critical thing. What is his goal? Gio is dead serious. He wants to burn the entire lab to the ground. Do-young spits his coffee in shock. He asks if this is a joke. Gio's expression is cold. He demands to know Do-young's exact role inside. Do-young begs him to stop. Nobody can ever destroy that massive facility. Besides, all of their old friends are still trapped inside the base. Gio stands firm. He will level the place and rescue every single one. Do-young flatly refuses to help. He cannot risk making an enemy of them. Gio shoots back that he only needs the files, not his permission. Do-young grinds his teeth, furious but absolutely paralyzed with creeping fear. Ultimately, he surrenders. He hands over a stack of highly classified data. Files he secretly compiled while working deep inside the heavily guarded base. Inside are complex blueprints, active codenames, and long lists of targets. He hands over personal diaries and pictures, omitting only the top-secret files. He begs to be kept out of the war, but Gio notices a massive flaw. Something is wrong here. Do-young has amassed way too much critical intel. If he truly wanted to stay out of it, why gather all this? Gathering these secrets makes absolutely no sense. Then, the real kicker hits. The moment Gio mentioned attacking, Do-young's heart started pounding hard. It was as if he was waiting to hear those exact words. In reality, he wants the lab gone too. Do-young is completely stunned. How could a single heartbeat expose his deepest secrets? He surrenders completely. Do-young confesses that deep down, that was his exact wish. He also wants to bring down the facility but thought it was impossible. The lab is far larger than he imagined. And those people have connections everywhere. Their deep facilities are hidden. Deep underground, totally out of reach for normal people. And their massive network of influence is simply insane. Everything is built on the tragic sacrifice of his own friends. They know how to control everyone, exploiting their weaknesses and promising rewards as bait to maintain control. That is why Do-young hesitates, asking if Geo still wants to attack, yet even knowing all this, Geo guarantees he will rescue his friends held in captivity and ensure the lab can never use them again. He declares that no matter how big the enemy, Geo will not change his mind. However, he warns that he needs Do-young's help. Do-young recalls his own failed attempts, warning that just the two of them will never be enough, no matter how strong they are. But Geo reveals he is not alone. This fight, Do-young is completely surprised by the news. Geo asks if he has ever heard of Songhyun. Do-young asks if she leads the mutant team, knowing she is the one even the lab avoids. She is the strongest mutant in history, and he cannot understand why this monster's name is coming out of Geo's mouth. He asks if she backs the plan, and Geo confirms, saying they can meet her right now. Do-young thinks that with her backing them, maybe they can actually convince his friends, especially since Geo was close to all of them. He knows it is absolute madness, but wonders if he can truly trust him. Geo simply tells him to have faith. Do-young sighs, noting that Geo always appears out of nowhere and turns everything upside down. Shaking Geo's hand, he agrees and says they are moving forward. Meanwhile, in a completely strange and grim location, a man calls for test subject 0032, Lim Naran. He says she is the regeneration subject destined to replace him and cruelly warns her that no one is coming to save her. In the office, Hain notes that Do-young was a test subject just like Geo. She reveals he currently operates Hoden Construction, a business specializing in foundations and underground works to support the lab, asking Do-young if she is correct. Right so far, Do-young admits she knows a lot, concluding she must have been investigating him from the start. She confirms he was on their suspect list for a while, already knowing about his fake identity connected to the lab. Just like Geo, Do-young states he does not find this amusing and that it is wrong for the police to use a friend as bait. He warns that she is crossing a dangerous line. She laughs, joking that he is actually quite cute. When angry, looking like a porcupine, Do-young gets even more annoyed, asking what she just said. Geo watches, realizing the guy's heart is beating incredibly fast. He does not even need a special ability to sense his fear. Do-young admits to himself that he is terrified because he is face to face with the leader of the mutant team, someone even the lab fears confronting. It is as if she can read his mind, as she mentions hearing that he also plans to attack the laboratory. Do-young asks her not to judge him harshly, because in the end they are targeting the exact same enemy. Trusting the police is incredibly difficult since they can easily use and discard him. She asks. Hain asks what he would think if she promised not to do that, assuring him she is much warmer than he thinks. Do-young replies that talk is cheap and she has given him no reason to trust her. Hain warns that they are getting absolutely nowhere now, suggesting that maybe he should go to the exact same prison as Chaewon. She reveals she sent him there recently, having tried to find a way to clear his name, but he refused to listen. She adds that Do-young might as well join his colleague behind bars. Do-young gets completely confused, wondering exactly how Chaewon ended up arrested. The two of them keep arguing until Do-young begs for a chance. Hain warns that helping the laboratory is a serious crime, and she explains that it equates to aiding a terrorist organization, meaning she could decide his fate right there, but she offers to overlook his past actions for now anyway, as long as he does not cross the line, simply because she also wants to destroy the laboratory. Do-young promises to help her. Hain decides to focus on business, asking for the single most useful piece of information he has right now. He replies that a friend of theirs needs an immediate rescue, and her ability is highly useful. The girl shown in the photo is Lim Naran, and he asks if Geo remembers her. Geo answers that she was a cheerful, kind girl, but Do-hung counters by stating she was actually quiet and cold, sparking an instant clash. He asks what on earth Geo is talking about, since Lim Narin was always incredibly gloomy, but Geo insists otherwise. He recalls that she used to hug him from behind, asking what he needed and saying they should all play together. Geo remembers telling her that he was hurt and his skin was still slowly regenerating back then, and that it must look disgusting, but the girl replied she liked him anyway. She said that seeing the wound heal made her happy and she absolutely loved it. Do-hung asks in shock if that rude brat actually said that, making things even more perfect. Hain comments that convincing the girl should be easy since she was close to Geo. She adds that rescuing at least one more teammate from the grip of that laboratory would be great. Looking at the data, the operation seems quite simple. The vehicles will pass through Silver White Road, where they plan to wait along the route and ambush the trucks to successfully rescue Lim Narin, but Do-hung warns that the laboratory might monitor him if he moves, asking about their protection. Hain explains that this is the exact time the police will block all the neighboring roads. She adds that they will cut communications for a while to prevent the arrival of any reinforcements. Do-hung thinks having police support and a high-ranking officer on their side is extremely convenient, so he understands the plan and agrees to help. Later, they arrive at the agreed road, lying in wait behind the mountain. Do-hung asks again if Lim Narin was a complete psychopath. He says she committed all sorts of wicked acts, but Geo saw it as kindness. Do-hung claims she is insane no matter how you look at it, recalling that normally the laboratory would discard someone with a useless ability, yet they tolerated her. Then he asks another question, wanting to know exactly how Chaewon ended up in prison. Geo answers that his criminal record was too extensive for the police to overlook. Do-hung notes that rumors say he did some pretty heavy stuff, so it is no surprise he got busted. Do-hung realizes that during the long years without Geo, everything has changed. So much happened while Geo was gone, and hearing about him is a massive shock. He only believed Geo survived because of his heart, assuming it had rapid regeneration. A simple healing power, basically. Geo admits he is also shocked by his own recovery. He never expected to heal this much, especially since his healing was slow as a kid. Do-hung tells him it is great to see him well, having lost touch with everyone. Memories of the mutant stun guns and capture weapons come flooding back to Do-hung. He still hears the echoing sounds of his friends being dragged away. Every single detail is burned into his brain, just hearing the word laboratory. It makes his body react instantly, triggering a wave of pure terror. Like a conditioned dog, even now a cold panic begins to set in. He feels himself spiraling and quietly asks if Geo is ever scared of that place. Geo stays quiet for a tense moment, but soon he speaks up. He admits he is terrified too, but he watched someone die right before him. Watching a friend die hurts so much more than having his own body torn apart. That is exactly why he plans to tear that laboratory out by its roots. He has felt enough fear to last a lifetime, and he is done running. The time has come to wipe those monsters from existence. This time, Geo will become their absolute worst nightmare. Meanwhile, Haiji tracks the targets from afar through her binoculars, reporting that the target vehicles have finally passed. They can block the road now. The secretary barks out orders immediately. She activates the signal jammer, while Do-hung confirms his group is ready. Haiji goes over the plan, warning everyone to keep radio chatter to a minimum. They cannot risk those bastards detecting them. Everyone on the ground is counting on Geo to lead. Right on cue, Geo takes a massive leap and dives straight into the action. The truck driver is left utterly confused. By the scene, he wonders what is falling right in front of him. From afar, Do-hung steels himself, determined to conquer his own crippling fear. In that instant, he unleashes his power to shape the heavy stones. The driver immediately questions if this kid is a heart mutant. Suddenly, the entire convoy comes face to face with a massive wall of solid rock, leaving absolutely zero room to escape. The vehicles crash violently straight into the barricade. Do-hung watches closely, noting how insanely tough the armor is. Not a single scratch appears on the armored transport after that brutal collision. The driver grabs the radio, reporting they are under attack. He screams for the guards to protect the transport vehicle and prevent anyone from opening the heavy steel doors. They absolutely cannot let these invaders take the mutant inside. But right then, Geo lands heavily on the roof, telling them it is already Too late, the driver completely freezes upon hearing that voice, the other. Guards scream in panic to lock everything down, but Geo calmly tells them not to bother. He simply starts bashing the reinforced iron door using a jagged rock. The impact is so brutal that his fingers are shattered. The terrified guards wonder how this complete lunatic could tear through military armor using nothing but his bare hands. Soon, Geo shoves both hands straight into the metal hole he just made, using all of his. He uses pure muscle to rip the metal wide open. Inside, something catches his eye. It is the coat belonging to Lim Narin, tossed aside on the floor. Right then, a squad of armored soldiers marches toward the truck. They have strict orders to kill the intruder. Geo yells out that he found her. He promises to wrap this up in 5 minutes. Meanwhile, Duyong slams his hands down. He channels his power into the earth, raising massive stone walls to trap the squad. The rocks crush them instantly, but a few survivors scramble back and open fire. They shoot relentlessly, trying to analyze their enemy. Duyong takes a hit. A bullet strikes him, but the soldiers realize his skin is tough as iron. With Geo's powers still a total mystery, the guards quickly turn their guns on him. They unleash a coordinated barrage. Geo dodges the incoming lead, ducking behind the vehicles. He pivots and sprints in the opposite direction, keeping them guessing. The soldiers panic. The intruder is closing in with backup from the stone mutant. Geo lunges forward and punches an agent so hard his glasses shatter into his face. He continues his brutal onslaught, smashing them left and right, the remaining guards. They fall back in terror until a sniper bullet catches Geo right in the forehead. More rounds tear into his chest and legs, riddling his body with holes. Yet his wounds instantly knit back together. He charges forward, sending an agent airborne. He ruthlessly targets the rest. Suddenly, a massive blast knocks him flat. Electric harpoons pierce his flesh, pinning him down. Duyong watches in horror. He knows how dangerous those shock weapons are. He used to ignore them. Back then, they could never breach his stone barrier, but now a harpoon flies straight at him. The high-voltage system activates instantly. Current surges through Duyong, and his stone shield begins to crumble. Back in the present, he forces the earth up. He is shaking. His muscles still remember that agonizing shock. If they hit him now, he is done for. The charge will completely short-circuit his abilities, leaving him totally vulnerable. But this time, he reacts fast enough to dodge the harpoons. He curses his hesitation. There is no reason to let old fears hold him back. The deadly weapons are completely useless if he just smashes their power source. Suddenly, a heavy impact catches him off guard. He crashes and rolls across the dirt. The agents lock onto him with explosive rounds, firing without mercy. Duyong shields his face, desperately calling up rock slabs to block the onslaught. But amidst the smoke and explosions, a hidden harpoon cuts right through his defenses. The steel wire wraps around his arm. Duyong panics, feeling completely cornered. His double-layered defense shatters, but Geo leaps in and snatches the live cable first. He absorbs the massive, searing shockwave meant for his partner. The soldiers watch in absolute disbelief as the regenerating freak barely flinches. They refuse to stop, keeping the current flowing to force him down. They crank it to the maximum limit, only to notice a terrifying detail. Watch this. Geo actually grabs the live cables and pulls them closer. He drags the terrified soldiers forward and hurls them away with raw physical power. One of them screams, unable to comprehend how anyone could survive this shock. Geo just mutters that it actually hurts, warning them not to use weapons on people. The panicked officer desperately stammers out, asking him where they came from. Demanding to know his origin, Geo calmly replies he is only looking for a friend. The soldier just laughs. He has no clue who the kid is looking for, but he warns him, big mistake. Geo acts instantly, one quick lunge and the soldier is down. After the clash, Dohung suggests tying them up, but Geo warns him they are out of time. Dohung believes they are safe since they already rescued the girl, giving them all the time in the world. But then, horror strikes. When he slides open the cargo door, the girl is gone and they have. Talk about a massive disappointment. They just freed a completely random stranger. Geo snaps. He tears the door right off with pure, terrifying raw strength, demanding to know where. Is she? The driver begs for his life. Geo knows exactly where. She went, ordering the terrified man to talk about the transport cargo. Their intel confirmed she would pass through here, but the captors switched her. Minutes are ticking away, and this driver needs to start talking right now or else. Geo demands to know where she is. She is locked inside their temporary mutant containment facility. Inside, scientists monitor her status. She's completely out cold, though her vital signs are still holding surprisingly steady. Her eyes are barely responsive. Pain, she feels nothing. Then a massive spike erupts from her flesh, nearly skewering the head scientist in an instant. A colleague warns him to stay back, noting her body still reacts on pure instinct. Even while unconscious, her self-preservation mechanism is running on pure autopilot. Fast spike creation, highly impressive, but they want something else. But makes it clear they are not interested in armor. He roughly grabs the sleeping girl's face, declaring that what he truly wants from her is her insane regeneration. It is not quite as broken as Geo's, but perfect for their experiments. The golden rule is keeping her breathing, since death ruins the research data. Just then, an assistant frantically contacts the director with some terrible news. Their first transport team was ambushed, wiped out. The director is baffled, unable to comprehend how anyone leaked the route. Their timeline is ruined, forcing him to halt the second dispatch team immediately. He orders an immediate retreat back to the main laboratory. Suddenly, the entire concrete ceiling shakes. Complete panic erupts as a massive boulder obliterates the main entrance. Crushing everything, Geo speaks into his radio, ready. He has located the temporary base, and the rescue is officially underway. The lead doctor panics. 2 powerful mutants have just invaded. He screams in rage at their audacity. Elsewhere, a captured police officer stammers that the girl is currently being moved by Team 2. Do-hung demands their scheduling papers, and the terrified cop quickly hands them over. He swears he is clueless, merely following orders from above. Geo reads the documents, identifying the man in charge as Supervisor Han Kai-kial. Back inside the facility, security forces quickly advance, opening fire directly at their hiding spot. Do-hung crouches beside him. Geo mentions he never expected Han Kai-kial to run this place, remembering him as a mere low-level scientist. Do-hung agrees, stunned that the coward climbed the ladder so quickly. It likely ties back to that incident 3 years ago when their friends were captured. Because of the threat, they immediately decide to split up right there. The enemy's power is geared toward capture. Sticking together will only slow them down. Jin announces he will rescue Lim Narin, while Do-young acts as bait. Do-young is pretty annoyed, muttering that he gets the logic, but it still really stings. Jin coldly reminds him they signed up for absolute hell on this mission. Rescuing Lim Narin is the ultimate priority, but Jin offers to swap roles if necessary. If he disagrees, Do-young touches the cold ground, activating his power. Telling his partner to shut up, right then. Several massive stone fists erupt from the cracked earth. They both know this full well. Perfectly well who is better at drawing attention. Jin needs to move. Do not worry about this place, he tells Jin. The police quickly target Do-young with their guns aimed. They immediately unleash a heavy barrage of bullets. One of the shots strikes Do-young right in the forehead, but he protects himself using stone. Creating a rocky armor over his own fist, he charges forward. He declares this tight space is absolutely perfect for his power. The devastating impact sends an officer screams that they are dealing with an incredibly dangerous, high-risk rock mutant. They quickly prepare their specialized ammunition, scrambling to reload. The commander orders high-caliber fire. Suddenly, a chain whips toward them. It strikes Do-young's stone fist dead on as a cold voice orders everyone to cease fire. Han Kai-kial steps forward, calling out with authority to command them all to stop shooting. We cannot go around destroying such a precious test subject. He points out that this is Subject 72, who can manipulate rocks, calling Do-young out. Calling his real name, Do-young gasps, realizing his mask was completely ripped away during battle. That after Do-young escaped and was caught 3 years ago, he swore absolute loyalty to the facility, but now he has betrayed them once again and is beyond any salvation. In the past, Han Kai-kial tortured the boy, binding his body with heavy metal chains. Do-young screamed endlessly, begging for mercy. Han Kai-kial observed that the boy's heavy rock armor crumbled purely from intense fear, not from any external impact. He noted the boy had a useful ability but could not even use it because he was always too terrified, yet he still had the absolute audacity to escape. The supervisor concluded Do-young was only dragged along by the other test subjects during escape, since he was far too weak to ever make a massive decision like that on his own. Ultimately, the master warned that the boy would serve the facility forever to stay alive. Now back in the present, Han Kaikal mockingly taunts him about his past cowardice once again. A spineless coward like Do-young would never have the absolute courage to betray them alone. Do-young hardens his massive stone fist and immediately snaps back. That nobody forced him to do anything, because he came here willingly on his own. 2 feet yanking the heavy metal chain to pull Han Kaikal forward with massive force. The cruel supervisor is actually caught slightly off guard by his sudden defiance. He instantly unleashes a barrage of steel coils, stepping on them to mockingly note that the Do-young only joined this invasion because he was absolutely terrified of being left behind again. Behind again, Do-young freezes entirely as he realizes his attack was completely blocked. The guards power up their generator once more. They prepare to fire their electrical stun weapons to contain the boy. Do-young quickly spots the incoming danger. The incoming shots and tries to dodge. He leaps back, realizing this guy is a monster. Talk about an arrogant bastard. The officers keep firing, ordering his escape route. Fully blocked, Han Kiol throws his spiked ball, closing in fast on Do-young as he thinks this absolute monster always targets his deepest, most painful insecurities. He just waits for the exact moment the boy's body completely freezes in fear. Then, Do-young raises a massive wall of rocks, remembering how he almost collapsed moments ago. But those chains wrap tightly around the heavy stone, refusing to let go. They bind the young man again. Han Kiol asks if he really thought a little rebellion would change anything. He claims the boy's fear is still there, and he needs another beating. He warns that if the kid learned the wrong lesson, he'll happily teach him again. This time, he will make absolutely sure the boy's body remembers the pain first. With a wicked smile, the director prepares to strike the final blow. But Do-young grabs the wall and tears off a chunk, admitting the bastard is right. Even now, he just wants to run away, but he's already done that once. He survived by turning his back on his friends, doing absolutely nothing to help. Now his stone heart begins to resonate, reacting with the nearby rock. Bricks shatter the chains as Do-young declares he is done feeling suffocated. He will not run away anymore. Han Kiol looks on, completely stunned. Did he absorb those bricks just to mold them into a new weapon? Do-young charges forward, his fist massive and ready to strike. Even a coward wants to save his friends. The police and soldiers are thrown back. The shockwave sends them flying, skidding across the hard ground in pain. They drop their weapons as Do-young lands, breathing heavily from the effort. Surrounding damage is massive, but Han Kiol remains completely untouched. He mocks Do-young for merely scattering useless debris that caused 0 damage. He laughs, calling the attack so slow it almost made him yawn. Did the kid think he was stupid? The real plan was obvious. Geo slipped away to find Lim Narin, but a squad is already after him. With his energy spent, Do-young collapses, hitting the cold ground hard. The officers move in to capture him, but a radio call interrupts them. The guard reports that the security team was completely wiped out. Han Kiol freezes in confusion as the guard continues his frantic report. The intruder inside is also a high-risk mutant, leaving the director stunned. He glances over and notices a smirk on Do-young's beaten face. He finally realizes the rock mutant was just a massive distraction all along. He orders his men to secure Do-young while he heads inside himself. Meanwhile, deep inside the facility, Geo shatters the heavy chains binding Lim Narin. He begs her to wake up, promising he is here to rescue her. Lim Narin looks at him in complete shock, but he offers a warm smile. Suddenly, iron chains shoot straight from the darkness, wrapping around Geo's neck. Han Kiol steps out of the shadows, trapping him completely. He laughs, calling it a lucky day to catch 2 prime test subjects. He demands to know how a rat dared to infiltrate his high-security laboratory. Geo glares back at Han Kiol, realizing 3 long years have passed. The freezing touch of the chains instantly triggers his oldest, darkest nightmares. He remembers being treated like useless trash who only wasted their research funds. No matter how much they train soldiers to fight mutants, they always end up useless. So Hankal wants to know who this kid is to completely wipe out a force of that size. He asks if Geo is just another lab subject who decided to betray them. Just like Di-hyung did, Geo stays dead silent, tightly gripping the heavy chains. Hankal asks what is wrong with him, wondering if the boy has lost his voice. He assumes Geo is paralyzed with fear, but the boy just stares back with icy eyes. Years ago, a terrified young Geo hid inside a dark closet, trembling with dread. Hankal appeared with a sweet lollipop, telling him he must stay strong to help his young friends. Geo questioned his words with trembling fear, but Hankal promised them safety. He swore the other kids would not be experimented on if Geo endured just a bit longer. Geo begged for a real promise, and Hankal readily gave his word. Soon the surgical table ran red with blood, the sweet treat discarded on the cold floor. Reading the gruesome test results, Hankal casually remarked that his friends would be deeply grateful. Right then, Geo realized it was a lie, a cruel cycle of using kids as bait. The sick tests would always continue. Now, Hankal happily announces the next brutal phase. This test measures the tensile strength of the chains, and he cranks up the pressure. As Geo screams, the metal binds his hands, coiling tightly around his very fingers. With a sickening snap, the chains break his neck, taking only 3 seconds to fracture. Deeming it a disappointment, he dials up the intensity of the brutal impact. Another massive chain whips forward, repeatedly lashing against Geo's battered body. The links move at blinding speed, pinning his arms down as Geo grits his teeth. He would gladly give up his own life to end this monster, but his friends still need him. He must endure. Suddenly, Hankal stops tapping his pen as a chill runs down his spine. The metal links are actually shifting shape right before his very eyes. That should be impossible, since fixed abilities are not supposed to mutate like this. He fixates on the shifting power structure, wondering if Geo has somehow broken his limits. He fires relentlessly, recalling research that links extreme stress to power evolution. If Geo can transform these physical chains, the potential is absolutely endless. Eager to see more, he inflicts even more agonizing pain upon the boy. He tortures Geo relentlessly until tears of twisted joy stream down his face. He enthusiastically thanks Geo, weeping that this discovery will push science to the next level. All while Geo can only think of how his body is always used for sick experiments. Geo tightens his grip on the chains constricting his neck, while Hankal watches closely. He notes that Geo behaves like a regeneration mutant, but something still feels off. Even a healer would try to fight back, yet Geo remains completely still. It is not the heavy metal chains that are keeping him so quiet. The second the boy realized who stood before him, he simply stopped resisting. This is no way to react to a stranger. Hankal demands to know the truth. Did he experiment on him before? Suddenly, Geo spots his opening and lunges. He throws a heavy, devastating straight punch right into the researcher's face. The impact shatters the chains completely, leaving Hankal absolutely stunned as he goes flying. He is blasted backward, tumbling across the stone floor in a wild spin. He crashes hard, slamming dead into a solid wall before collapsing onto the floor. Gasping heavily for air, he desperately tries to make sense of what just happened. That kid was completely locked down in steel right until the moment he struck. Once again, Han Kaikal is sent flying. He tells himself this is impossible. Even for a mutant with unmatched physical strength, those steel chains should not just shatter from pure brute force, but then he notices a crucial detail. Look at those twisted chains. There is no way that was an accident. Geo calmly explains that chains hold up well against direct pulls, but fail against lateral force. Focusing all that power onto a single link makes it snap first. While the cruel scientist was testing every vile and painful experiment on his helpless body, Geo was actually studying every single detail about his enemy, Han Kaikal. Grinds his teeth in pure rage, he conjures even more chains directly from his bare hands, throwing everything while warning the boy not to get cocky now. Just because he shattered a few links, the weapons surge straight for Geo. But he does not even flinch. Suddenly, Han Kaikal reverses their trajectory. He shapes the steel chains into heavy iron balls, sending them crashing down onto him. Geo charges forward with explosive speed. He swiftly evades every chain in his path until one of them suddenly whips out and catches his ankle. He instantly darts his eyes downward. Han Kaikal mocks his clever trick of twisting and breaking steel, claiming the game changes completely when they strike from all directions, whether coming from the flanks, from behind, or sweeping. Even sweeping right under his feet, there is nowhere left to run. He tells the boy he is nothing special for snapping 2 links, as the metal closes in, sending Geo back to the dark days when he was just a skeleton. He ducks his head, dodging on pure reflex, and vaults upward to escape. To avoid a deadly strike from behind, landing ready for the next clash. Han Kaikal stares at him in utter disbelief, but Gio reflects on a deeper truth. He did not just break one pair of chains, he remembers the countless links tearing into his body in the past. All that torment taught him exactly how his enemy moves those weapons and where he always leaves gaps in his defense. Recalling every single pattern, he snatches a fast-moving chain right out of midair. Hankaikal freezes in absolute shock. Gio yanks the metal with brutal force, pulling the shocked scientist close with the momentum while explaining how to handle it. To handle this easily because he drove those very chains directly into his own body. He slams the scientist face first into the cold floor, unleashing all his rage. Hankaikal desperately defends himself using a cluster of steel chains. He cannot understand how a mutant focused on regeneration has such massive strength. Blood splatters from between the scientist's broken teeth. Hankaikal leaps back on pure instinct, realizing Gio is dodging everything. While still launching fierce counterattacks, he realizes this boy was definitely one of his former test subjects. Hankaikal asks if he came all this way for revenge or to rescue his friends, finding this whole situation highly amusing, mocking him as just another discarded experiment. The cruel researcher notes how rare it is for mere trash to grow so strong and become valuable research material. Once again, he promises to experiment on him one more time. Hankaikal asks if the boy truly believes he knows everything about him. The kid is dead wrong. The scientist explains he never shows his real combat data during tests precisely to avoid being betrayed like this. Hankaikal claims the boy only knows a tiny fraction of his true capabilities. He hurls a spinning saw, telling the kid he picked the wrong opponent. Gio just smiles. The faster that blade spins, the easier it is to predict where it lands. All thanks to centrifugal force. Then Gio buries a massive fist right into his gut. The brutal stomach blow forces Hankaikal to cough up a lot of blood. The scientist cannot comprehend how this kid found the weak point of his weapons. Quickly, he uses his chains to absorb the kinetic force and brace himself. He never showed that specific recovery technique to anyone. How could the boy possibly know? Growing desperate, Hankaikal shrieks that it was nothing but a lucky guess. He yells that it will never happen again, whipping out a dozen chains at once. The deadly metal links surge forward like hungry snakes, aiming to tear the boy apart. But Gio reads the trajectory of every single chain in an instant, effortlessly stepping aside. He calmly notes that the scientist can only redirect attacks within 2 meters. Hearing this, Hankaikal freezes in absolute horror, his tongue completely tied. Wait, how does this random kid know his closely guarded combat secrets? Before he can process the shock, Gio bursts forward with terrifying explosive speed. The kid connects another devastating punch, smashing right into the old man's face. Spitting teeth, Hankaikal frantically digs through his memories to identify this monster. It makes no sense for a mere test subject to possess such classified data. He kept every single record locked down tight to prevent this exact nightmare. Plus, he never experimented on anyone matching this boy's physical appearance. Then he remembers a specific regeneration mutant who watched his experiments up close. A sudden, vivid image of a tiny skeleton flashes inside the scientist's mind. Before he can connect the dots, Gio slams his body violently against the floor. Hankaikal screams. The hard impact completely shatters the floor below him. The solid ground cracks wide open beneath them. Instantly, Gio pulls back his fist. He leaps back, narrowly dodging the wild storm of chains whipping up to catch him. With flawless precision, the boy glides backward to establish a safe distance. Hankaikal realizes the boy knows every single limitation of his deadly arsenal. Nobody could possibly acquire this level of detail just by reading stolen files. He looks up, realizing the kid standing before him is that legendary test subject. The only survivor of those horrific experiments. It has to be Kim Gio. The boy smirks and calmly confirms his identity. Yes, he is back. The scientist is awestruck. He is immortal, and his healing factor is incredibly fast. He demands to know what happened to his prize specimen. Gio replies that it is a long story, one they can discuss behind bars. Instead of fear, Hankaikal bursts into a long, wicked fit of laughter. When Gio asks what is so funny, the crazed scientist says he cannot contain his joy. He spent years hunting for this perfect, immortal body, and now it practically delivered itself. Now he completely understands why the kid was considered such a precious masterpiece. The former laboratory directors wanted him desperately, Gio immediately asks about them. Han Kaikyal explains they were the ones who originally brought the boy in. But as for where those old directors went, he has absolutely no clue. Frankly, he does not care. None of that ancient history matters right now. His ultimate test subject is back and stronger than ever. Smiling, he readies his chains. He wraps his hand around a pipe, admitting he is no longer the same weakling. No more ordinary chains. This next experiment will be unprecedented. The scientist smiles, stating it is truly good to see Gio once again. He crushes a piece of iron, knowing forced ingestion will multiply his dark strength. His blood coagulates instantly, meaning he cannot even use those deadly chains for a few minutes. But the trade-off grants him raw power. Gio realizes his enemy is going all out. He knows he desperately needs to escape, but the crazy scientist is already charging forward. Han Jichial moves too fast, confident he will put an end to Gio first. The heavy chains anchored to the pillars whip forward, cutting deep into his flesh. Blood drips. Han Jichial brags about creating a custom combat lab. He sneers that Gio thought he understood him, but the truth is far worse. The researcher knows every single detail about his former test subject's body. Gio tries to throw a punch, but the chains yank him backward with force. Han Jichial laughs, explaining that he has completely locked down Gio's muscles. Sharp chains slice his flesh as he heals. The heavy steel grinds directly against his bones. This is Kim Gio's absolute limit. No matter how strong he got, the hierarchy between them remains exactly the same. Gio is still just a test subject, and he is the ultimate researcher. Fighting back is useless when that heart only grants him endless immortality. Rapid regeneration means nothing because his physical threshold still has a clear limit. Dozens of brutal chains will slowly tear his body to shreds over and over. Trapped in this nightmare, Gio can do nothing but heal without end. His weakness, but Gio suddenly grabs a chain with absolute power. He holds it with immense strength, instantly freezing every other chain in place. Han Jichial panics, trying to figure out how Gio located the core chain. Gio stares back with freezing eyes, remembering the equations written on the board. Controlling thousands of chains individually is a physical impossibility for any human. The core chain is only for support, regulating the rhythm of the others. Gio realizes that is why the researcher needed a steady support anchor. Waiting patiently, Gio kept this secret in his head for this exact moment. Gathering every single ounce of raw, explosive power, he pulls on that main chain with fury. By stopping the main link, the rest of the iron network collapses instantly. Han Jichial cannot comprehend this defeat. He desperately tries to summon more chains. He points his hand at Gio, but absolutely nothing happens. The chains won't respond. Gio calls out Han Jichial's name, reminding him of how helpless he was in the past. Back then, Gio could only endure the agonizing torture in complete silence. But now he gathers the surrounding blood, aligning his heartbeat with his power. Han Jichial tries to deny the terrifying reality, stepping back in absolute fear. He screams that Gio is merely a lab rat, but Gio punches his ribs. He warns Han Jichial that he is no longer anyone's helpless test subject. Han Jichial coughs up a huge spray of blood, flying backward from impact. Honestly, you can't blame Gio for wanting to destroy every single laboratory. He winds up another devastating punch, striking the back of the director's neck. Han Jichial groans in agony, but Gio continues his relentless, merciless beatdown. He inflicts the exact same suffering he endured, grabbing Han Jichial by his hair. The director smiles, "Go on, keep hitting, it changes nothing." He knows Gio won't kill him, not if his goal is Lim Naran. If the protagonist really wanted to reach Lim Naran, he should have broken the director's spine right now. If the director dies, Gio will never find his friends, meaning he cannot end his life. He warns the transport is 30 minutes late, communications are completely down. The military will arrive soon. Laughing, the director calls out to Gio once more. He mockingly offers 10 minutes for Gio to hit him as much as he wants, but Gio just lands a brutal punch straight to the mouth, physically drawing out the director's blood. Honky Call is utterly stunned. He begs Gio to stop immediately while Gio just stares at him with a cold, terrifying gaze while commenting on his racing heartbeat. The man tries to act calm, but his heart betrays the truth, touching his blood. Gio can feel his heartbeat, instantly knowing if the man is lying. Gio calmly explains that half of what he said was a complete lie, though the part about the army arriving soon was true, but saying he could never save his friends was false. The director's rapid heartbeat says it all, proving he lied. Honky Call just bursts out laughing, warning him not to bluff because his own unique power. Ability only regenerates his heart, but the protagonist reacts with lightning speed. He grabs the man's collar, ripping away a piece of his researcher badge in a sudden flash. The director is utterly terrified. Talk about a complete shift in power. Gio points out the hidden memory card, holding all their research data. Honky Call frantically tries to snatch it back, only to receive a devastatingly heavy blow. The director is thrown away with brutal ease, but he scrambles up even angrier to charge again. He screams that absolutely no one can touch that, but Gio keeps on beating him relentlessly, finishing with a punch that severely injures the researcher. Gio mocks him, remembering how he said all the data was inside that researcher badge, and that it was his absolute most precious thing. His heartbeat proved it. Honky Call knows losing this means his end. He cannot let that happen. He suddenly remembers his own childhood inside the lab when a cold voice announced his parents had died. His ability had manifested, but it was incredibly weak with terrible control. He was classified as rank F. The cruel order was simple: cut out his heart and send it to materials room. Hearing this, the young Honky Call grew terrified. He begged them to wait, crying that he was highly skilled at analyzing things and could help. The head doctor asked if he had more to show. Honky Call handed over a document, explaining he analyzed the abilities of all the other children, even those who tried to hide their powers. He revealed that one boy's heart allowed him to move small pieces of metal, while a girl's heart corroded walls. They were planning a secret escape together. One of the betrayed children headbutted him, crying that they promised to run away together, but the doctor ruthlessly struck them all down. The kids collapsed instantly. The doctor asked if he was truly useful. He noted that while most of this data was actually completely useless, the overall idea was quite clever for a child, so he decided to test him. He warned that the boy must prove his worth immediately. Back in the present, Gio mentions hearing other researchers whispering. Gio exposes his past. He reveals the twisted researcher was thrown into this lab like everyone else. And Kaikal screams, cursing the boy for knowing things he never should have known. Then Gio starts crushing the crucial memory card right in front of his eyes. The researcher drops to his knees, desperately begging and offering absolutely anything to stop him. Gio cold-bloodedly orders him to write down where the other kids are being held. He wants the captive lists and transport routes, and Han Kaikal quickly agrees. Shaking, he grabs a pen. Gio commands him to read everything aloud while writing it. He warns that he is listening to his heartbeat, forcing the terrified man to comply. Secretly, Han Kaikal hopes reinforcements will arrive if he can just stall for time. He tries to write as fast as possible, but Gio instantly crushes his hope. He tells him backup is not coming because the police already blocked every escape route. The doctor is completely trapped. Han Kaikal starts trembling in pure terror. He panics, wondering if they plan to steal all of his hard-earned data. But Gio has no intention of letting him live, wanting only to destroy everything. The doctor realizes his own lab will discard him now. Nothing else matters anymore. The stolen files on the card are his last golden ticket to a new life. If he can somehow escape with them, he might actually avoid a prison cell. He slowly tries to unhook his chains unnoticed, but sharp thorns suddenly strike down. Gio snaps his head to the side. Han Kaikal is left bleeding and gasping. Lim Narin groans, clutching her throbbing head and demanding to know what he did. The doctor thought his heavy sleeping drugs would keep her down much longer. Seeing her wide awake, he realizes he has to run this very second. But before he can move, jagged thorns impale both of his arms completely. She growls that it is payback time. He has no idea how much she hates him. Just looking at his face brings back nightmares that make her blood boil. Gio watches in absolute shock as Narin controls those deadly, razor-sharp wooden thorns. She drives one straight through his eye without hesitation, telling him to cover up. The abusive doctor is left completely riddled with bloody holes from head to toe. Complaining about the annoying mess, she raises another attack, but Gio grabs her arm. Her thorns instantly whip directly at him, forcing Gio to dodge back. Glaring with cold fury, she demands to know who dares block her way. Gio begs her to stop, explaining they need the doctor alive for intel. She eyes him suspiciously before admitting she almost lost control there. It would be rude to kill him in front of her savior anyway. She claims she was just teaching him a lesson, then asks if he is Kim Geo. She remembers a friend by that name who possessed a unique healing power. Geo confirms his identity, but she struggles to connect this masked badass to her friend. Geo, she knew, was utterly terrified of Han Kaikal's cruel experiments. She calls him a complete liar, refusing to believe he could change this much. Geo promises he is telling the truth, admitting he used to be pathetic and weak. He calls her by name to prove it. Meanwhile, Yane tunes into her radio. Geo patches into the frequency to give her a detailed situation report. He taps the static connection, and Yane tells him to speak up clearly. He reports that Han Kaikal is secured, and they have the files on the kids. She sighs in relief, promising to clear the blocked road for their extraction. When asked about Limnarin, Geo confirms he saved her too, but warns that there is a slight catch now. The girl refuses to leave his side.